Thank you.
So as we have done during this COVID epidemic, we will take public comment after we receive an update from our COVID team. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors, Marcy Jo Cudzel, Public Health Nursing Director. At 8:40 this morning, we received word that we have another positive case in Trinity County from a resident in the Hayfork area. We received word from a provider in Humboldt of this positive test. It was left on a message to our nursing group leader, so as we speak, she's reaching out to make contact with that individual and to issue quarantine orders. That's the only information we have at this time, and I'll go ahead and go through my report to you, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. Our testing numbers today are 177 negative, 3 positive, 2 resolved positives, 90 pending, 2 currently in quarantine. That's not including this particular individual, and then 26 total quarantines to date. Our testing capacity continues through the Verily testing site. We have this week Hayfork and Weaverville, and that those dates and times will be posted on the website, and they're widely available. As labs have become impacted, I'm sure you know that there are long wait times for results. Because of the significant continued virus outbreaks, the labs are prioritizing symptomatic individuals. This could indeed delay the results of asymptomatic positives through our Verily testing site. One of the remedies for that, we've been working with CDPH and Verily and a variety of other partners. They're looking at, QuestLab is looking at pooling testing. I'm sure you've heard that term. Basically, pooling can be done on asymptomatic persons, not symptomatic persons. So the Verily testing site is essentially for those that are asymptomatic. And pooling includes running a group of tests together instead of one by one and getting a result on the group. If it's a negative result on the group, then it ends there. However, if there's a positive that comes through, then each of those tests would be done individually. We're hoping that that will help with the result time. Right now, the average amount of time for those results to come back is about 10 to 11 days. We are currently working with the schools to reopen. As you know, the governor's laid out updated guidance for schools and what those requirements are, including required masking for students in 3rd grade and up. Recommended masking for those in 2nd grade down to 2 years. Children under 2 cannot wear masks safely. We are working with the school to help them update their plan, and we are providing resources such as hand washing stations, hand sanitizers, masks, face shields for teachers and students, and anything else they might need. We're committed to writing those resources into grants. And so we're committed to helping our schools open safely and protect our teachers and staff as well as our children and community. One key that I'd like to emphasize again is that as a community, we all have a role in ensuring that our children can go back to school. Wearing masks is fairly straightforward, and we would ask once again that every person wear a mask when in public and not able to socially distance as the governor has laid out in his directive. We are also working with the jail command and sheriff to bring testing to jail staff and inmates, as well as help them with the mitigation plan in the event that we should have a case in the jail. We're also working with probation, our chief probation officer and our sheriff and staff around the release of inmates and how to safely quarantine them and manage them when they return to Trinity County. We continue to work with partners and the public to ensure prevention measures are adhered to as laid out by Governor Newsom, as I stated. We want to remind the public that please maintain 6-foot distances between others. Please wear a mask when out in public. Frequently wash your hands, get tested, and if you are ill, stay home and contact your healthcare provider. we continue, and again, we continue to ensure resources that are needed to do that are obtained. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Not too many questions today, believe it or not. Back to your testing and the delay of results getting back, is there some education to those folks getting tested? Because that 10-day window is quite a, you're not doing any tracing of their immediate circle. So there's this lag time of 10 to 12 days. Are you encouraging them to just stay low and stay home until the test results come back? Or how do we mitigate that 10-day window for further exposure?
So the concern, and thank you, Supervisor Morris, I understand. I think the key here is the message that we want people to stay home if they can. If they can't, to wear a mask in public. Then it won't matter. Because we can't quarantine people just because they've been tested, in particular if they don't have symptoms. So there could be many asymptomatic people, we just don't know. But our test results so far are bearing out that many of those are negative. So the key is every person wear a mask when in public. Stay home if you can. If you can't, you have to go out, wear the mask, social distance. That is such a simple preventative measure, and it would ensure that people could go out if they needed to. And we don't have to isolate people simply because they're being tested or quarantine people simply because they're being tested. The concern is that what happens now is that everyone around a positive is going to be thinking, did I wear a mask? Did this person wear a mask? And then what you have are groups of people around a person that was positive, that didn't have masks on. Those persons need to be tested, and then it creates that ripple effect. So once again, the key message is masking and social distancing.
Okay. Another question? What are our overall test numbers to date? I don't know if I caught that.
Yeah, so the negatives are 177. There's 3 positives, and there are 90 pending.
And how many tests to date have been?
So the total, I'm sorry I didn't add that up to provide you the total. So it would be,
I thought that we were like around 1,000 tests that we've done.
we're over 1,000 because 1,077 are negative.
Oh, I thought you were saying 177.
No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Did I say 177?
I thought
I'm
you
sorry.
did. That's what was the math was throwing.
I'm
Okay.
so sorry.
Got it.
1,077.
No worries.
I apologize.
Now it all makes sense.
I'm loopy this morning.
It's in the air.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions? Are you complete?
I'm done. Thank you.
Supervisor Brown?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mercy. I had a constituent reach out to me and they were curious about our ability to update the test results on a daily level. And I guess she referenced Shasta County, shows cases by day and more specific breakdown of the totals when they occurred and all that. I'm wondering what our what's holding us back from having that kind of end of the day report. And what is our current reporting? Is it every 2 weeks, or how often is the website data updated?
So our yeah, thank you, Supervisor Brown. Our website is updated every morning by 9 o'clock. We have listened to our residents in their requests for data. We did update this data to include more information. We did look at Shasta. We're always willing to do that. I'd have to talk with my team about the logistics of breaking it out in more specifics by day. I'm not sure that we could do that, but did I answer that question? Certainly, the public can send information through our portal about questions about data and suggestions. We welcome that.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. I passed on information and links where she could find all that, and I'll relay this information I've been told. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Our residents, our public are our partners. We listen to them. we respond to them, and we need them to help us.
Supervisor Bruce, any questions?
Yeah, I have two. Thank you, Marcy. So you mentioned pools. How big are the pools?
Yes, for right now with Quest, they're going to pull 5 individuals.
Okay.
So it's not a large amount. I do know also that the state testing task force, there was some shakeup as Dr. Charity Dean resigned, but we now have a testing task force at CDPH once again with solid leadership, and I'm anticipating that we'll have some more help around testing in the future. Yeah.
So my second question is, you mentioned 26 have been quarantined, so is that through the entire COVID
Yes.
scare? And so then we have 2 that are quarantined, I'm assuming from out-of-county experience.
Exactly, yes. So from March to today, 26 is the total quarantine. The quarantine landscape was those 2 positives. We quarantined people that were exposed to those. And the rest, and then there'll be a 3rd quarantine for this individual and any that comes from that.
So we'll see that number go up.
You'll see that number go up, yes. And the, yes, to your point, the majority of the quarantines have been people who have been exposed out of county coming back to Trinity County.
Thank you. Done.
Supervisor Farrer?
Thank you.
Questions? So I have a quick question regarding the one positive from Hayfork. You mentioned that it was notified from Humboldt. So is this a similar situation that we had before where it's a resident that has multiple residents, and is it going to be counted for us, or is it going to return back to?
It's not my understanding that this individual has dual residence in Humboldt and Trinity. It's my understanding this person lives in Trinity County and was seen in a Humboldt County facility.
Okay, and the second question, you were talking about grants for the schools. The grants for the schools, will they be, school starting pretty soon if we're going to start on schedule? So I guess the question would be, are we, in your estimate, I know it's not concrete, are we going forward and starting school on schedule, and will those grants be implemented at the beginning of the school year?
Yes, ma'am. We are planning on opening schools. One of the metrics in the governor's guidance to open schools is that counties cannot be on that watch list for the preceding 14 days prior to school opening, so we're in good standing to be able to do that. There's guidance on mitigation and testing of staff that will be in constant contact with the schools around. With regarding the grants, we have any COVID grant that comes up, we apply for and have gotten it. One, there's a grant that's around contact tracing and containment. So in that grant, we highlighted the school needs primarily, putting into that grant the hand washing stations to ensure, and we're working with the schools to ensure that children coming from the playgrounds back into the classroom can wash their hands outside. We don't want children waiting in line inside the classroom to wash their hands at a sink inside the classroom. So just these little things that can help mitigate. Hand sanitizers for the older children, our youth, because younger children have to be supervised using hand sanitizers. We've had CMSP grants that we've applied, a grant for COVID to help ensure low-income individuals, including children, get what they need. So, and our HPP grant has also got a large sum of money, the additional HPP grant we received for resources, because the MOOC in the health department is tasked with simply getting resources for our medical health partners. That's what the medical health operational area coordination. These grants help us expand that and obtain resources for many partners that aren't just medical health partners. The other thing I wanted to say that I didn't say before, I wanted to let you know that we have notified our hospital and our clinics of the individual that tested positive, so they have that information to be able to look through and make sure they're protected.
Thank you. Supervisor Morris has an additional follow-up.
I don't know if this question is for you, but you said something that triggered my brain. Has there been a discussion, or do we have an answer as to why, given our numbers have been very steady and still going in the right direction, and I assume meets our attestation numbers and what we said we can and can't do, why our restaurants had to go to outdoor dining?
That's a statewide order, and so we follow the governor's orders, because if we don't, it jeopardizes our.
No, I realize that, but has there been any discussion with public health at the state level as to counties such as ours might get a little bit of a carve out because our numbers are not going in the direction we see other counties? And we're not going to be on the monitoring list. Let's hope. It doesn't seem to be at the moment. We're heading that way. So I'm just wondering if those discussions are going on. Or at the state level?
No, not really. On the county executive calls that I've been on and some of the CDPH calls, there really hasn't been that discussion. Doesn't mean they're not thinking those things. Mm-hmm. I can tell you from our position, our health officer and my position, is that, again, and I, not to be an alarmist, it's just what the data shows us is this virus, we're learning more and more, and things change almost on a weekly basis. And looking at what happened when counties opened up, granted they're more densely populated, but the problem is this virus is very effective at infecting people. And it being summer and the virus still, significantly infecting people. There can be people traveling in and out of Trinity County. At any given time, we could become impacted. Mm-hmm. And so right now, we're not, and we're continuing to not. Part of that is going to depend on how well we implement these prevention measures. But aside from that, I'm not sure moving down the road what that's going to look like from the governor's perspective. And we have to take our lead from that. And that's probably the best answer I have.
And I certainly understand that. I just was hoping they might be looking at, there's probably 5 of us that meet that potential that we could have a carve out given our numbers, but I just thought I'd ask.
I can tell you, based on, it's kind of a repeat of what we did when it first started. Right. And so more than likely my guess would be, as counties continue to manage the illness, that very well could happen.
Thank you.
So I just have a quick comment. You said that children under 2, it's not, it's dangerous for them. And I had opportunity on Friday to spend part of the day in an emergency room with a mother that was waiting on x-rays. She may or may not have broke a foot, and I had a 2-year-old, and I could not imagine. I tried. There's no way you can keep a mask on a child that age. So it's fortunate that we don't have to. So just a comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have someone on chat that wants to know if the new mask will be provided daily to each student at the schools.
That's a good question. Thank you.
It's a very good question. The state has provided 3 masks per child. That is one of the subjects we're going to be talking with the schools around. Their cloth face coverings can be washed. So the idea is that you have 2 or 3 cloth face masks. They wear one, they wash the others. Face shields can be sanitized, wiped off, but they have to be replaced. That's why we've ordered hundreds of masks and hundreds of face shields to be able to ensure there's a supply.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the team else that wanted to come up and speak?
Kimberly, did you want to share? This person also had another question.
She wants to know if there's any scientific study that shows masking is effective against coronavirus. If there is, can that be shared?
Yeah, there is data that demonstrates the probability of prevention when masks are worn. When an individual wears a mask and another individual wears a mask. However, the key is no one thing is the silver bullet for protecting against COVID. Masking, social distance, all these things taken together prevent the spread.
That was good, thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors, Christy Anderson, Trinity County Environmental Health. As you had mentioned previously, additional sectors were closed as of 7/13, and this gave some exceptions that were a little more helpful this time. So indoor dining not allowed, but outdoor dining allowed. And after speaking with the ABC, they're allowed to serve drinks with those meals outdoors. So that was one positive to look at. Some of the other facilities that were shut down were bars completely. They don't serve food. Wineries, movie theater, museum, family entertainment such as the bowling alley. And we realize at this time that it's very hard on our local businesses to open and close, buy products, and not be able to serve the public. Once again, I wanted to reiterate, it's very important that we stay off the state watch list because additional sectors will be closed down. And also, as Marcy had mentioned, the schools won't be allowed to open, and other things like sports, where we might have a chance of being able to do, we wouldn't be able to do. Also wanted to let you guys know that we have 2 teams out there doing some education and outreach regarding masking, social distancing, etc. And they've also, we have some help and filling out surveys to kind of give us an idea of where some of the spots are of non-compliance. We also, provided by California Office of Emergency Services through our Trinity County Office of Emergency Services, we were able to obtain 28,000 masks to give to those businesses, and also 36 cases of hand sanitizer, which we've been handing out. Those 2 teams in particular. We're getting overwhelmingly a lot of calls on masks and hand sanitizer requests, which we're really happy to provide. We want those calls coming in. We want to know that businesses are trying to help everybody stay open, everybody stay healthy. It's really important at this time. And that was all I had for today. Did anybody have any questions?
Supervisor Brown, do you have any questions for environmental health? Fisty?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Groves.
Yeah, I do want to clarify, wineries can be open if they're outdoor.
Okay. Yeah, and I did talk to ABC for a while, getting all those ins and outs together the day that we had to announce this, so.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Supervisor Finley? No? Thank you. Thank you very much. Liz, were you going to? No, not at this time. Is there anybody else on the team that you have? Okay. So we're going to bring it back to the board, and we go into our public comment, and this time is for information from the public on matters not appearing on this agenda. All comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. In addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters not listed on the agenda. However, the chair may refer to the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up or schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. We're going to start with people present. Is there anyone in the public that wants to speak to the board? I'm not seeing any movement, so we're going to bring it to our Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom? And Ms. Tina will call you. You can raise your hand. If you are not called on, please don't have your mic on. And if you use foul language, we will terminate your time to speak, and you will not regain those minutes. Thank you, and welcome to today's meeting.
We have Diane that wants to speak.
Diane,
She doesn't have a last name.
there's a Diane that would like to speak.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, Diane Richards.
Thank you, Diane Richards from Hayfork. I would like to bring up and ask that the issue of elections integrity be put onto the agenda and we discuss how the elections department should be and is mandatory to follow election code, both federal and state. You sit as the elections board, and that's under elections code 319. You should not be allowing the election code to be violated. And therefore, we need to do something about it. For instance, the Central Committee is not been allowed to participate ever, even though I know that the CAO has requested that for me to participate as the chair of the Republican Central Committee. That needs to be addressed. I know that they are allowing in the grand jury, but the law says the grand jury and Central Committee members, at least one from each, the Democrat and Republican. I also requested the manual for the new machines so that we can understand how they operate, and we were told by the county council that it would be hundreds, many hundreds of dollars to get that document, but I requested it electronically, and it shouldn't cost hundreds of dollars. I wrote the elections department to ask what is the procedure for ballot harvesting and the protocol to bring in the ballots, and since we're all vote by mail now, this is a very important issue. Not that I agree with it, but we'd like to know the protocol, and I was never given an answer. And then again, the Central Committee is supposed to participate in the signature verification process, and since you have voted to allow all vote by mail, we really need to look at this issue and say, okay, how do we make sure that they're all processed properly, that everybody's vote is counted, et cetera. And that's partly the Central Committee's authority. It's statutory. It says there's grand jury and Central Committee members to participate in that signature verification. You certainly can't do it from outside the window, even though they're allowing the grand jury in. You can't see anything, et cetera. And we're also supposed to be given the voter list so that you can see who's on the voter list ahead of time, make sure that everybody is a valid voter, et cetera. Those are the jobs of the Central Committees. I don't know if the Democratic Central Committee would like to participate, but the Republican Central Committee very much would like to. So I'd like to get that on the agenda so that we can address this. You are the election board, so this is a responsibility of yours, and I request that. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah, just to kind of follow up to your follow-up, if you would check if you guys look at the political parties able to participate, there is some level they can participate in, so that would be great.
Tina, I'm sorry. There's no hands up. So is there anyone on the?
Madam Chair, may I have a comment also?
Yes, sir.
That I would prefer that CAO, Coons Council, and the chair be involved versus having this in an open session when we don't have the expertise to have this as a workshop. I prefer that to be done.
I'm initiating a conversation about this with Richard and County Council, and I'll proceed according to whatever the structure that they feel would be most significant and beneficial for the community.
Chair, could I ask people to use their microphones a little more? It's hard to hear.
That's so good, okay.
These microphones.
So mine's about as
These over
close
here.
as.
It's hard to hear people talking. I'm not sure this is picking it up, but
Okay.
really doing good out
And
here.
just, I don't know if I'm the only supervisor, I am hearing feedback. So, that's our speakers, okay. So, our mics are up, I think, as far as they can go, and they're as close.
That's better now.
As we can get to them, so. And I was at the public on the phone lines. Is there anyone on the telephone line that would like to have a comment at this time? I'm not hearing any, so we're going to bring it back to the board, and we're going to move on into consent calendar, but I have a little housekeeping, and I'm trying to be more correct with this, and Daryl's been very patient, so I would like to close out on the 625 board agenda meeting. Item 2.1, closed session was continued on July 7th. Item 6.1, there was no, in closed session, there was no reportable action. Item 6.2, it was unanimous direction given to Director of DOT regarding Caltrans. And that concludes what I believe to be the housekeeping for closed sessions on the 2 previous meetings. Thank you, John. So moving on to consent calendar. These items include routine, non-controversial matters and will be acted upon by the board by one roll call motion. A member of the board, staff, or public may request an item be pulled and considered separately. Supervisor Brown, do you have any items you would like to pull today?
No, I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Groves? Supervisor Finley? Supervisor Morris?
2.3.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Chavez?
Aye. Item Supervisor Morris pulled. Item 2.3, adopt a resolution which authorizes the elections official to conduct a special election consolidated with the general election on November 3rd, 2020. No fiscal impact. Supervisor Morris?
I just pulled this item in case any member of TCLS is online or Zooming with us. This is their item to go to the November 3rd election. And so I just pulled it just in case because we're operating in such a different format.
Correct. Yeah,
I don't know if they're here or not, but if not, then I'll just move to.
is there a member? Todd? Anybody?
That's not, all right, I just
Okay.
pulled it for convenience for them. Otherwise, I will move to approve.
I need to open it to public
Oh,
comment.
you're right.
I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
Is there anybody in the public that would like to make a comment? So we can't hear you, and you're
Is
not
this a
present.
comment on the consent calendar?
The item on 2.3 was pulled, so now Supervisor Morris had pulled it to give opportunity for those that are putting this on the agenda to have an opportunity to talk. No one talked, so now it's open to the public if they would wish to speak to item 2.3. Okay, bringing it back to the board.
Then I move to approve.
I'll second.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Chavez?
Aye. So we're a little early for the planning and zoning. So, sorry, public hearing for 10 o'clock. I think I'm going to go ahead and try to backfill a few things, and then we can start at 10 o'clock. So if there's anybody on Zoom thinking that I don't want to go in front of them, is that the consent of the board? Everybody's good with that?
It would apply to 5.3.
Yes, I think that's a good one to start with. So we're going to go ahead and go to county matters. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board or staff may request that an item be heard out of order. Anyone on the board want to hear them out of order? Jeremy, Supervisor Brown, would you like to pull any out of order?
No, thank you.
Supervisor Groves?
Ma'am.
Okay, so we'll start with 5.1, discuss the,
So we're gonna just do
Yeah,
five.
why not do 5.2,
The
5.1
5.3.
might take a
Okay,
little longer.
5.2.
Yeah, I think 5.1 will take longer and 5.2
Okay,
is
so
5.3.
we are pulling them out. So we are pulling them out of order. We'll start with
That's what Judy
5.2.
mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Modify human resources. Modify the department allocation list for Health and Human Services Division to read 2, parentheses 2, Staff Services Manager, and 9, parentheses 9, Administrative Clerk, 1/2, or Administrative Clerk. Senior or Administrative Coordinator, 1/2, or Vocational Trainee or Vocational Assistant, effective July 21st, 2020. Approximate cost and salary and benefits per month for a Staff Services Manager at A step is $9,399.
Good morning, Shelley Nelson, HR Director. So Health and Human Services is requesting to increase the Staff Services Manager allocation from 1 to 2. This additional position would manage and supervise department-wide staff services functions through planning and organizing activities pertaining to the Quality Assurance Unit within the department there, including general administration, fiscal support, act as a personnel liaison for the department, performing highly advanced and complex analytical duties in support of the assigned function. This position will be responsible for supervising subordinate clerical, technical, and professional staff. The position serves as a highly skilled administrative subject matter expert in areas of assignment, and this position differs from social service program manager classifications in that incumbents in the former manage administrative rather than program-related functions pertaining to employment eligibility or social services.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Nelson? Supervisor Brown, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Sorry about that. Damn mute button.
Thank you, sir. Anybody? Okay, I'll open it up to the public. Any public comment? Bringing you back to the board.
I move to approve.
You got a second here. Good lucky.
Supervisor Finley,
Aye.
Supervisor Morris,
Yes.
Supervisor Groves,
Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Chowder.
Aye. Item 5.3, pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 2.60.410, parentheses A, authorize hiring candidate number 00390 as an accounting technician, senior at range G191, step C in the clerk, recorder, assessor department, effective July 13th, 2020. Approximate cost and salary and benefits per month for an accounting technician, senior at A step is $6,023 and at C step is $6,553. Shelley?
So we've run a recruitment to fill a vacancy that we recently had, and to date we've only received 2 applicants. And the applicant that they'd like to make this offer to scored the highest and has 29 years of experience in governmental accounting. They're familiar with Trinity County's accounting system as they previously worked for the auditor's office, as well as the independent software company Bitech, which used to be our payroll system. Also been working for Spokane Public Schools in Washington State, and the skill set, of course, would be very beneficial to this agency as well as the department, and assisting also with elections. And it proves to be an asset to both the office and serving the public. And the department is requesting to offer above A step at C.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Supervisor Brown?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I'll open it to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to weigh in? Bring it back to the board.
Motion to approve 5.3 as presented. Thank you.
I'll second.
Supervisor Groves,
Aye.
Supervisor Finley,
Aye.
Supervisor Morris,
Yes.
Supervisor Brown,
Yes.
Supervisor Chadwick?
Aye. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
So we're going to hold off on item 5.1 because I believe it'll take us over the 20 minutes. So we'll go to reports and announcements. So we'll start with reports from department heads. Are there any department heads in the audience that would like to report out? No. Is there any department heads on the phone or on Zoom? I'm not hearing any, so we'll go ahead and move on. Reports from County Administrative Officer, CAO, Dr. Coons.
Thank you, Chair Chadwick, members of the board. Spoke with James, and I'm not going to say his last name, the consultant that we discussed doing the strategic plan. Spoke with him last week, lay out a time frame and costs, and we came to an agreement. It'd be a little over $12,000. However, that won't come from Trinity County. Was able to get that funding through Trindell in the leadership training, so it won't cost the county.
Excuse me, Dr. Coons, I know we know what you're talking about for the public sake. Could you explain?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I was given direction by the board to develop and go out and find a firm that would do a strategic plan for the county. We settled on this firm, did a presentation at the last board meeting, and I was given direction by the board to negotiate some times and terms with them. The payment for the strategic plan is around a little over $12,000, which, as I stated, we can get paid through our leadership training through Trindell, so it won't cost the county any funds. It's about a 8 to 10 week process, somewhere between 4 to 6 meetings, around 2 hours apiece, ending somewhere in either late September or early October. So, per board's direction, I could schedule the meetings and do the doable to find out when people are available.
Okay, are there any questions for Dr. Coons? So what direction would you like to have the board?
To start polling the board to see what times and dates are available.
Okay. So I would say go for it.
Since we're spending money, does this need to come to the board as a agenda item?
It's under the amount that I can sign for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Question on a totally different other subject. I'm sure she's prepared to do this, but will you just remind Susie K. to send the board a note when applications are going out for those business loans for our businesses under COVID? I know she's pulling all that together, and I just wanted to make sure when it's ready to be launched or is launched that we all know as board members so we can tell our business.
I'll do that, yes.
Any other comments? Okay, so reports from members of the Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Brown?
I've got no out-of-county travel and nothing new to report. But, you know, as a whole, it's been both challenging and inspirational to see how specifically, at least in my eyes, District 4 has worked through the last number of months with the ongoing changes due to COVID. However, the rafting businesses have been, I would say, more or less inundated this whole time. Apparently, we can assume that we haven't had any COVID-related incidences due to any rafting things, or supposedly with a total increase in tourism as a whole. So that's very reassuring to me as far as the economic impact to our area and county as a whole. I feel that we are in a very good position with our tourism and outdoor recreation and massive amount of social distance availability up here. So I just wanted to share those words and give a big thanks to all the business owners that are dealing with this on a daily level and adapting quickly, and also to all the departments that have been severely affected in this. The increased hours, responsibilities, inquiries from the public. It's no small feat, so I'm just proud of Trinity County and honored to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Brown. Supervisor Morris?
I don't think I mentioned last time, we had another NCRP meeting, of course, by phone. Some of our partners can't do Zoom from a bandwidth standpoint, but we awarded additional funding for different projects, and I will bring that list next meeting. It's sitting on my desk. And also, I reached out to Caltrans once the various businesses had to move outside. I don't know about Hayport, but the sidewalks in Weaverville, it's a Caltrans territory, and so we've seen and you will see certain businesses do some sidewalk activity. We don't want them to run into any trouble, so Caltrans was very cooperative and working with trying to find a solution on them to be on the sidewalk legally, and they will be submitting some paperwork to the county, and we'll get some of that information out to businesses, so they just have to fill out some forms. It may apply to your district as well. I don't know how your sidewalks fall under the Caltrans umbrella, but just to help give those businesses to pull tables out, you'll see stools out on the sidewalk so they can keep operating. Do you have that? You know,
Sidewalks?
in Hyanpom? No.
No.
No, okay.
People?
Yeah. But I don't know if there's Caltrans territory, like it is in Weaverville. If so, it would apply there too.
I'm on
Supervisor Newman, do you have anything?
Nope, no out of county travel. Thank you.
Supervisor Groves?
I have no out-of-county travel, but I do have a request for Dr. Coons. I've had several constituents want a part of Siskiyou County to be annexed into Trinity. And I would like you for us to meet and set up a time to meet with the Siskiyou County CAO and whatever supervisor they feel is appropriate, to see if there's any discussions. And moving forward, we could negotiate with.
Okay, I hear Siskiyou into Trinity.
Right.
Well, the baseline
No,
is.
I don't want,
Okay.
it's your your opportunity.
It has been talked about before, but not at a formal level.
I will reach out to Ms. Davis, who's the CEO of that.
Is that on Supervisor Groves?
Yes, that's it.
So I also left my notes on the table, so I'm going to pass on reporting out. I know I had several things, including disaster council last week, but I don't want to report without my notes. And forgive me, Dr. Kins, I should have asked you to do this. I don't remember the board reporting out at the new facility after the board was invited to go, and I'm just not sure if we did it and I forgot. Would you like to just give a quick update and?
What date was that?
After the last board meeting.
A couple of board meetings,
Yeah,
I think it was in June.
Yeah, so the board invited.
Go ahead and talk into the microphone, and maybe we can turn the speakers down. Sorry about the technical.
Yeah, the board was invited to participate in a tour of the new correctional facility. Along with that was the sheriff, undersheriff, and Department of Transportation Director, and the board toured the entire facility. At that point, the roof had not been put on yet, so it's moving fast. I believe the roof is on now. And we're able to see the inner functions of how it's going to work, how it's going to be safer for staff and inmates alone. So I think it was a good tour, and I believe the board worked quite a bit. Still wish we had a kitchen, but we don't. But on down the road, we have hopes for something like that. So happy to answer your questions the public has concerning that tour.
Is there anyone on Zoom or on the line to ask questions about the new facility? the correctional facility. Have you seen that? Okay, so there isn't any, so at this time, we still have approximately 10 minutes. How is the board doing? Do you need a 10-minute break? Great. So we'll resume promptly at 10 o'clock for our 10 a.m. public hearings. Item 3.1, 10-minute break.
Streaming will remain on, so.
Streaming will remain on.
It's happened before, Danny. And it was really because of the fact that you couldn't get to it.
Yeah, we keep the roads clean, everything there.
It's the same logic, but it has, historically, it has happened before. That you took it and said, "Cisco could have been."
Same situation.
Have you tried? You still have the audio coming out of here with the sound system?
No, it's going through there.
So how does, so the audio from there is going through it?
The audio from there.
Oh.
Through this computer. I was wondering if it
From,
was,
what do you mean?
like people are, when they talk, it's going through there. Because when we were
So you're
zooming
using the
in-
sound system off of the projector?
Yeah, because when we would look it through, the sound system has its own, I mean, the projector has its own sound, so it was
Yeah, but that's what,
conflicting.
that's,
And I don't know if it's that, I sent an email to IT to see if they could check out the speaker. None of the speakers were
it sounds to me like there's a bad connection. It needs to be, I would be playing with, the audio gets out, the audio is coming out of there into the sound system.
coming out of their period, it doesn't go in.
So it's just that, so it's just what we hear from them.
It's computer.
So, let me show you something. So this is a new device I have now. And so I've got that camera sitting over there. And so if I push this button, now what's showing on streaming is the podium. I go back here and what's showing on streaming is the whole thing.
Okay.
We can actually hook this whole thing into Zoom. So we could actually be changing the scene in Zoom as well as on the streaming. So I'm thinking that we might want to try to figure out a different setup here, and that's kind of what because this is basically I can run 4 different cameras or 4 different sources. So one of them could be a computer. So I could put a sign up on the computer right now that says the board's in recess. Reconvene at 10 o'clock, that kind of stuff. So I could have that streaming right now instead of what's streaming right now is this plus that they're hearing us. Which is fine, but because if I shut this off, then they got to get back. Basically, it's another file that they have to look at. So I don't really want to shut it off. So I really want to do is all I can do is take a laptop and plug it into here, and I can go to that, and then I can say, the board's in recess. We'll reconvene at 10 o'clock. That kind of thing. So.
Okay.
But anyway, we can connect this into Zoom. I could take that and put one of these kind of cameras in that spot, which would give us a better environment. So there's a couple things we can do to work on some stuff. So maybe so. I mean, they're going to have a board meeting on Thursday night. I thought I'd go over some of that stuff for the planning meeting at the same time, just to kind of see what happens. I know it works. I've tried it at home.
There's a Lily.
I haven't, haven't done live with it here, and we'll talk back here before we do it formally. But I know I can take one of these cameras and make a webcam by plugging it into a and so now I'm going to have a better video service and a better audio source coming out of those little webcams. Pretty good, not nearly as good as on these cameras.
You take it off my property. I got There you go. Richard, perfect.
Well, it's interesting because now you're not getting.
beat to hell for the
feedback.
run.
Right, it's when this.
That's all
So
you
it's
need.
like, okay, is it
And then you get to grow this beard.
coming from where the audio source is, it's picking it up,
We
it's
don't
giving
need
you
two
the
cars.
source or what?
So, get rid of dangerous driver, well, just need something just to run around town and just go back and forth
I mean,
and still.
It seems like it should be happening all the time.
Right.
Does it happen to you, Stick?
It is.
Does it happen to have four-wheel drive with two or
It may
three?
well be that
Oh,
there's a piece of wire that's got, I mean, the kind of thing
It's
that could
got
be
a
used
power
in some
takeoff
place.
winch that I think.
There's not a good connection, it's a little short or something
How
someplace.
do you get rid of
It
mine?
might
You
be
get
a
rid
kid
of
in
it.
itself sometimes.
Because I've got like
But
12
without
cars
knowing
in my
how,
front yard.
if all you're doing is picking up the audio.
This is why we live here.
I don't think
Well, I know,
that's
but I have to
the
pay registration on
because
12
otherwise,
cars.
I mean, this
It goes-
conversation right here, I would think we'd be doing the same thing.
I just assumed you could count.
I can just, I can
Oh,
justify
okay.
cars, trust me.
Like if we had to do that.
Unmute it, let's see what it does. See if that makes any change. So the sound system is off right now too? Well, we got to turn that, if that, with that off, then, you know, we're not checking it.
Yeah, the better one for her is I've got an 89 Suburban, 2,500 jacked up.
Still,
You have to fix that up manually.
Yeah, that's.
$30,000 later.
Yeah, exactly.
you run Zoom.
I like
Send you that.
the 60 Broncos.
Yeah, that's.
Did I have everybody?
Well, maybe we'll
Well,
pick up the order this week.
if they're not, then I'll leave it, then we're.
I think you better show her that picture first.
Jeremy was the last one on the.
She actually wants like a 90 or 86, 96 Ford Bronco.
Yeah, he's muted too now, so you need him to unmute and see him
Well,
unmute
Scott's
here and see.
on.
You can almost, now you can almost even see where it's coming from. Which is almost gonna take a test environment, we're gonna sit down and say, you guys, I'll call it, we're gonna not do Zoom, we'll do Zoom online. We're gonna test each place, so maybe a computer up or someplace that's causing that.
I thought people were coming when I want. We have the door must be open, so right now we're okay. So I think we're gonna probably have a longer.
Be the front row.
Supervisor Finley's still out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems so. It's just 4,000 original models. It's actually my lowest mine for a while. They were tough ones.
Now we're hearing it again now.
Can't hear that?
Oh yeah, we're trying to figure out where it's coming from.
You better watch out, you'll be CAO.
Welcome back to July 21st, 2020, Trinity County Board of Supervisors. We're entering into the 10 a.m. public hearing, planning and zoning, item 3.1. Conduct a public hearing to uphold, modify, or overturn the Planning Commission's June 4th, 2020 action to approve a mitigated negative declaration and conditional use permit for the property located at 1155 Main Street, Weaverville, California, Project Applicant, Best Development Group, Grocery Outlet Project, P-191-19, Applicant Becky Dale, Counsel for Trinity County for Small Business, unknown fiscal impact. And Director Hunter, right before you start, County Counsel, are you with us on the line, Zoom? Just want to make sure we're all here.
Meyer is here, yes.
Thank you. Would you like to frame what and why we are here today before Director Hunter has her time at the podium?
I also wanted to.
As far as the public hearing goes,
Is that Amanda? I'm sorry.
Sophia.
Oh, Sophia. Yes.
this is Sophie.
Yeah, and that way if any of the supervisors have any questions for you, we can make sure that's taken care of real quick. Yes, please.
I just can add further for her to clarify. Sophie, this is Supervisor Morris. I just wanted you to review, to explain the appeal process for everybody's understanding in a very short general sense.
The why and what we were here for today.
I apologize. You want me to explain the appeal process?
Yes,
Right.
please.
Quickly.
Okay, so we're here for a public hearing. So you're going to open the public hearing. We're going to take the public hearing. We're going to close the public hearing, and then the board is going to deliberate regarding whether or not they want to modify, uphold, or overturn the Planning Commission's action, which is their recommendation. And their recommendation is to approve that mitigated negative declaration and conditional use permit. If the board makes a decision that the applicant does not like, the applicant then can appeal that to the court.
Right. Okay, I just wanted for the public's knowledge, but okay, fine, thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions for legal counsel? No? Supervisor Brown?
No questions for council.
Thank you. Director Hunter?
Good morning, Chair Chadwick, members of the board, and public present. I'm Kim Hunter. I am the Building and Planning Director. This morning, this appeal will be heard. It was originally heard by the Planning Commission, several Planning Commission dates. However, the resolution and approval by the Planning Commission occurred on June 4th, 2020. Today, Deputy Director of Planning, Lisa Lozier, will be giving the presentation and answering any questions that you have prior to the public hearing.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Chair Chadwick, members of the board, staff members, and members of the public. My name is Lisa Lozier. I'm the Deputy Director of Planning, and I will be presenting agenda item 3.1 for you. And this is appeal of a Planning Commission decision on June 4th, 2020, a special meeting for conditional use P1919 for grocery outlet. And the appellant is Trinity County for small business. So, still a summary. Trinity County for small business has filed an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to approve conditional use P1919, which would permit the use of a 20,000 square foot grocery outlet grocery store on approximately 2.2 acres on the north side of State Route 299, which is located within the commercial corridor of Weaverville. The appellant states the reason for the appeal is the county has committed a prejudicial abuse of discretion by failing to proceed in a manner required by law in adopting a mitigated negative declaration and approving a conditional use for the Weaverville Grocery Outlet project. So basically what I've done for this presentation is the appellant had 3 specific issues to address. So I'm just going to address those issues, and then if you have additional questions for me, I would be glad to answer them. So concern number one is the public review period on the mitigated negative declaration was not proper under the law due to the COVID-19 shutdown. So typically on a mitigated negative declaration, it is mandated that that document and a notice of availability be posted and available to the public for 30-day review period. For this particular document, it was posted with the notice of availability on March 2nd, 2020, and it was posted through April 1st, 2020. That posting for the document was available on the Planning Department webpage. It was available on the State Clearinghouse webpage, and it was also available in print at the Planning Department. So basically the discussion revolves around whether, due to the COVID-19 shutdown and a lack of public access to the Planning and Building Department, whether that is a breach of the 30-day review process. Ultimately, planning staff, and this is fairly widely practiced, we publish and post in a number of different places, i.e. the clearinghouse and on the planning website, in order to allow the public as much access to documents as we possibly can. So ultimately, that document was available and quite frankly is still currently available on the county website. So it has been available to the public since March 2nd of 2020. So the appellant concern number 2 is the conditional use permit, and this is directly for the conditional use permit, that the Trinity County General Plan was not available online in order to confirm that the project is consistent with the general plan. Well, quite frankly, when this process started, it's true that the general plan was not available online. It's my understanding that the general plan was not available due to some county web page updates, and it was posted back on the internet sometime in May. So that's true in part. Basically, what I would like to bring your attention to, though, is on the staff report, had quite a descriptive discussion about consistency of this project. Was it consistent with the general plan? Was it consistent with the zoning ordinance? And was it consistent with the Weaverville Community Plan? And all three of those documents were discussed in detail for consistency for this project. And it was determined to be consistent with the project. So the third concern is that the CEQA document as prepared is incomplete because an urban decay analysis was not prepared for the project. So I will just touch on this very briefly. We have Gary Reese, hopefully available to comment. Gary is with SHN, who is a consultant that works with planning, and he prepared the mitigated negative declaration for us and is prepared to answer any questions or to elaborate on what urban decay and an urban decay analysis would actually look like. So ultimately, that analysis was not prepared for this project because it was determined that urban decay, which is a really substantial physical impact on the environment, would not be the case with this particular project. So I would, if Mr. Reese is available at this time, if he would like to chime in and give a little bit more information to the board.
Mr. Reese?
Hello.
Hello, you're welcome.
Good morning, board members. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, I'd like to provide you some additional information about urban decay and the requirements of CEQA. And I'd start off by saying that CEQA does not require an analysis of purely economic impacts, where there is no evidence that such impacts would result in physical impacts on the environment. And these physical impacts would include urban decay. And it's important to note, urban decay is not defined by CEQA, but it has been considered in previous CEQA cases under the following definition, and I'll read through this real quick. So, urban decay is defined as, among other characteristics, visible symptoms of physical deterioration that invite vandalism, loitering, and graffiti that is caused by a downward spiral of business closure and multiple long-term vacancies. This physical deterioration to properties or structures is so prevalent, substantial, and lasting for a significant period of time that it impairs the proper utilization of the properties and structures or the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding community. The manifestations of urban decay include such visible conditions as plywood boarded doors and windows, parked trucks, and long-term unauthorized use of the properties and parking lots, extensive gang and other graffiti, and offensive words painted on buildings, dumping of refuse on site, overturned dumpsters, broken parking barriers, broke glass littering the site, dead trees and shrubbery together with weeds, lack of building maintenance, abandonment of multiple buildings, homeless encampments, and unsightly and dilapidated fencing. So, as staff noted, in CEQA case law, urban decay is a relatively extreme economic condition. Now, there, as you're aware, various information has been submitted by the project opponents related to economic impacts of the project, and this info includes comments from local businesses and residents, comments from the attorney representing the local businesses, and there's also been an urban decay analysis prepared by PGK Economics, specifically Philip King. And in my opinion, the information currently in the record from the opponents of the project does not indicate that an extreme economic impact such as urban decay will result from the project. I'll also note that the applicant has submitted their own urban decay analysis, and they've also provided comments from real estate professionals and chambers of commerce from communities where there's been other grocery outlet stores developed. And this information from the applicant concludes the opposite of the project opponents, and it's basically that the project would not cause or contribute to urban decay. So, in my opinion, the urban decay analysis submitted by the applicant is a higher quality and more robust report. But, for the purposes of the board, it's not about who submitted a better analysis or whether the board agrees with the conclusions of one urban decay analysis or the other. At this stage in the CEQA process, you're reviewing an initial study mitigated negative declaration. And the question the board needs to address is whether the information on the record from the project opponents constitutes substantial evidence that supports a fair argument that there is the potential for significant economic impacts from the project. And for reference, there is a definition of substantial evidence in the CEQA guidelines, section 15384. And substantial evidence means enough relevant information and reasonable inferences from this information that a fair argument can be made to support a conclusion, even though other conclusions might also be reached. It goes on to say whether a fair argument can be made that the project may have a significant effect on the environment is to be determined by examining the whole of the record before the lead agency. So argument, speculation, unsubstantiated opinion or narrative, evidence which is clearly erroneous or inaccurate, or evidence of social or economic impacts which do not contribute to or are not caused by physical impacts on the environment do not constitute substantial evidence. So for this project and the comments received so far, the board needs to determine whether the information on the record meets the definition of substantial evidence. And if you determine it does, then CEQA does require that an EIR be prepared. However, if the board determines that the information does not meet the definition of substantial evidence, then you should make specific findings why it does not. And to determine the reliability of evidence submitted, the board can consider several factors, and this is identified in CEQA case law as well as the statute and guidelines. And that's whether the evidence has an adequate foundation in the witness's personal knowledge of the facts, whether the evidence is provided by a qualified source, whether the evidence is credible, or whether the evidence is clearly inaccurate or erroneous. So in your decision on this project, if you so choose to determine that this information does not meet the definitions of substantial evidence, you should make findings related to the comments received from local business owners, as well as the urban decay analysis submitted by the project opponents. Do you have any questions related to that info?
I have one.
Supervisor Morris has one, and then I'll ask Supervisor Brown, who's on the line.
Thank you. Just a quick question. So, in your opinion, would just pure market dynamics fall into the category of rising to the level of significant evidence on what is brought forward to us by surrounding competitors?
Just purely economic impacts are not required to be addressed by CEQA. So if you're talking about losses in revenue that would make it more difficult for those businesses to operate, make them have to make changes to their business operations to keep up with that, then no, that's not typically considered to be evidence of a significant impact that would result in physical impacts on the environment, such as urban decay.
Thank you.
Supervisor Brown, do you have any questions?
Not at this moment.
Thank you. There are no further questions at this time for you, Mr. Reese.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that concludes our discussion with those 3 specific items. And the department recommendation for this particular project, staff would like to recommend that the board deny the appeal and uphold the Planning Commission's June 4th, 2020 action to approve the mitigated negative declaration and conditional use permit for the property located at 1155 Main Street, Weaverville, California. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Is there any, excuse me? Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
So with the COVID, there has been some letters complaining that with the COVID there wasn't adequate access for the public to vent their opinions through the Zoom.
For the public meetings.
For the public meetings.
So the first public meeting that this project was actually brought forward, it was scheduled April 9th, which was canceled. Also, was moved to April 23rd, which ultimately the project was continued. But yes, for that particular meeting, that meeting was held for the Planning Commission via teleconferencing and not on Zoom. And it was complicated. It was difficult due to a number of factors, with individuals not muting in the background and not being able to pick up the sound from the microphones and various other things. Yes, that was a difficult meeting. We did learn from that meeting, and we picked up on Zoom, and we worked towards setting up the process, gave staff training so we could identify, as we're working with Zoom and as the people are logging on, that they would be able to raise their hand to be called on. And so yes, we made some progress for meetings after that, and specifically for the June 4th Planning Commission meeting, we did use Zoom. I thought the meeting went fairly well, but it is still not the same as meeting in public. It's still not the same as the public being able to attend. And at this point, I would like to also mention that even Governor Newsom, when he asked for businesses to close and for agencies to close to the public, he understood that this was going to be a difficulty for the public. And so in his executive order, requested a relaxing of the Brown Act, that requires that public meetings be open to the public. And, I don't think there's anybody in this room that would say that they would not want the public to be able to attend meetings, because ultimately that's why we're here. That's why we do this. We want to make information available to the public. But what we're using right now is the best that we can come up with. It's the best we've been able to do. And we've taken quite a few steps to make sure we are as open to the public as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Lozier, in your opinion, and I know it's just an opinion, there's been significant time since the Planning Commission meetings that the public could reach out to the department. Have you or are you aware of an increase in a dialogue, an open dialogue with those people that felt that they were prohibited in any way from reaching out?
We received quite a few emails that were either in support of the project or not in support of the project. But as far as receiving any specific emails of persons that were concerned that they did not have availability to documents, I have not received any emails or phone calls to that regard. And I am not aware, this was ultimately posted probably about a month before I started working for the county. So, there may have been a time frame at that point where individuals reached out, but I am not aware of that. I would like to point out, though, that in the staff report, we did receive a comment from an individual that posted their comment on, I think it was March 31st, prior to the closing of the official public notice time for the mitigated negative declaration. So we did receive a comment from the public, but as far as any type of specific concern, I have not received any, no.
Thank you, appreciate that. Director Hunter?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm that nobody did reach out to us for that information. And also the general plan, staff was available and accessible during the office closure. We were there and nobody reached out for a general plan document or information either. So no, we did not get those requests.
Thank you. Any follow-up? Okay. And that concludes. Thank you. Thank you for your willingness. And I see people I don't know, and I'm supposing that one of you is here for the appeals.
Everybody's here.
I know, but the counterpart, because I wasn't introduced. So,
Who's
gentlemen,
going first?
Are you here to represent?
I'm here on behalf of the appellant.
Okay.
And the gentlemen are here on behalf of the applicant. So I don't know who the board would like to speak first.
Margaret, finish with the applicant.
Well, are you speaking?
The applicant.
Okay. Is it public comment, or just are you part of the presentation?
Normally, the board would hear from the applicant as to his thoughts or her thoughts on the project, so.
I just didn't know who was who. That's what I'm asking for clarification.
I presented it to Planning Commission as well. So.
Please, introduce yourself and just so you know, this is not limited to 3 minutes.
Chair Chadwick, members of the board, my name is Terry Johnson. I'm one of the partners with Best Development Group, the applicant. We are based in Sacramento and have been developing grocery outlet stores in California and Nevada for many years. Here with me today are my two partners, Carl Best and Scott Best, along with our attorney, Tina Thomas. And then via telephone, I have standing by, I hope, I don't see the names like the Planning Commission had on their Zoom call, but I've got our civil engineer, our architect, our traffic engineer, and a grocery outlet representative to answer any questions that you might have specifically that I cannot answer. First, I want to thank your county staff for helping guide us through this entitlement process. We've been at it for 18 months since we first submitted our application for the development of this property in January of 2019. So it's been quite lengthy, and dealing with COVID it's even gotten longer, but we understand that. We believe we've complied with every item required by the county in terms of studies, in terms of background information, requirements, regulations, CEQA documents for our proposed project. I also want to give you some background on Grocery Outlet. Maybe you all know about them, but I'm not going to make that assumption. They are a 75-year-old grocery company based in Northern California, Emeryville, near Oakland. and they are considered a value-oriented grocery store, meaning that they offer name brand products, not non-brand, but name brand products at a much lower price point than a traditional grocery store like is in Weaverville now. And primarily because they don't carry the number of products. If you want ketchup, if you go to the local market that's here, they probably have 7 different brands of ketchup. Del Monte, Heinz, on and on and on. You go to grocery outlet, they have 2 brands. Heinz, Del Monte, whatever 2 brands they have. And the price point is usually 30 to 40% lower for that same product. Not put in a different container. If it's ragu, it's in a ragu just like in the other stores. So, and the reason they do that is because they buy in bulk for just their stores. And they don't buy all the products. They buy a limited number of products in their stores. They're smaller than the local store here. So I just wanted to, make that distinction. They're not exactly like the market that's here today. And that's typical of every community we built, whether it be a Safeway or a Raley's or a Ralph's or a Lucky or whatever. They are different. And that's why the consumers, that's why you have some local residents driving 47 miles east of here to Reading, to the West Reading store to shop grocery outlet. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at any of the emails that staff has received or the Facebook page, bring grocery outlet to Weaverville, but there's dozens and dozens of posts for that. They're tired, local residents are tired of driving that far. And they obviously see a difference, so they do make the trip. Also, grocery outlet does not have any bakery in the store, no delicatessen, no restaurants, no Starbucks. They are purely just a product-oriented driven store. So that's their model. They have over 330 stores, primarily on the West Coast and a few in Pennsylvania. Each store is owned and operated by someone who lives in the community, hires locally, and is fully engaged in community activities, charities, and will be an asset to the community. I believe you have a number of letters and emails from other small communities that we've built grocery outlets in. I don't know if you had a chance as the board to review those, but they've been coming in the last few weeks. Like Cloverdale Chamber of Commerce, Mammoth Lakes Chamber of Commerce. These are not me saying that grocery outlet's great. These are communities that have experienced a grocery outlet coming to their small community, and they are small communities, and they have one supermarket in town. Mammoth has a Vons, Cloverdale has a Safeway, and I don't need to take time to read their letters, but it basically says, and staff will, I'm sure, have read these letters, that, I'll just read real quick. I'm not going to take more than 10, 12 minutes. Cloverdale has a number of smaller grocery choices, 2 small stores serving our Latino community, 1 independently owned organic community market, and several convenience mini-mart types, gas stores, all of which are thriving and in no danger of closing. This is from the director of Cloverdale Chamber of Commerce. Mammoth Lakes says the same thing. They are not aware of any store that is closed in Mammoth Lakes. And grocery outlet's been open for 1.5 years. Cloverdale has been open for 3.5 years. Now, they're not aware of any store that has closed because of grocery outlet coming to their community. Because they're different, that's the point. They're different than the market that's already there. As you probably know by the emails and all of that, there is a big support of the local residents in Weaverville and the surrounding region to have a grocery outlet store. Many more people want the store than have written letters that have said, we don't want them. And I know there was some concern about Dollar General opening up 6-7 years ago, but we're not Dollar General. We're a grocery store that carries limited product, brand name, and that's all. In closing, I just want to say that our project is consistent with the Trinity County plan, general plan. Our proposed use is a permitted use under the zoning of the property. And we've agreed to all the conditions of approval that staff has outlined for us. I don't know, there's 86 or 90 of them, conditions of approval to build the project. So we just believe we've agreed to everything that we need to agree to, and we would respectfully ask that you deny this appeal so we can move forward with our store and open it next summer. I'm available for any questions now or later if you have anything for me now.
Supervisors, do you have any questions?
I don't at the moment, no.
Supervisor Brown, do you have any questions at this time?
Not at this moment, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any additional on behalf of grocery outlet? Okay.
Just clarify before I start, I have more than 3 minutes as well?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a public hearing. You're
How
not,
fast I need to talk.
you're fine.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Supervisors, thank you for having me here today. My name is Becky Deal, Land Use Counsel for Trinity County for Small Businesses. We filed the appeal that brings us here today. I don't want to repeat too much. I submitted a letter that I hope you'll receive yesterday. I do have extra copies if anyone would like one. To quote Commissioner Stewart, this is a big project for this area. And big projects should be treated as such with the care that's required by the law and respect shown to the public and their participation in that process. The Trinity County General Plan says that public participation in the land use process must be guaranteed. And so while I'm not sitting here today saying this project can never ever go forward, I'm saying at this point the public participation in this process has not been guaranteed. A lot of that has to do with COVID, beyond anybody's control. We were a little bit blindsided this year in March. The circumstances of the world have changed substantially, but I'd like to circle back on that public review period and kind of put a finer point on what the law says. One of the purposes of CEQA is not only to understand the environmental impact of a project, but to guarantee public transparency of those projects. The public review period is so that the public is aware of upcoming projects and can review the environmental documents. What the law says is, not only must there be a 30-day review period, but the notice of availability for that review period must comply with CEQA. And to do that, the day that the public review period ends on must be a day in which county offices are, quote, open. The case that comes from is from when a public review period ended on Labor Day. So I think relatively analogous, where it's not that the internet was down, it's not that no one could do anything, it's that the public offices were closed because it was a Labor Day weekend. So in this case, there's nobody's fault. On March 20th, the county office is closed. The website said in bold, highlighted font, county offices are closed to the public. A memo was released, county offices are closed to the public. They didn't open until June 10th. On June 9th, another memorandum was issued saying, county offices open to the public on a limited basis, please make an appointment. The public review period, as noticed, ended on April 2nd. So the first point that we'd make on our appeal is that those county offices closed on March 2nd. They did not open again until June 10th. CEQA requires that there be a notice of availability with a CEQA compliant review period. In this case, that did not happen. The public was sort of precluded from submitting environmental comments. So what we submitted is what we knew. Impacts to nearby businesses as they experienced when Dollar General came to town and other nearby development occurred. Those types of comments have been largely categorized as urban decay. We'll call it that for shorthand. Mr. Reese gave an accurate description of what urban decay means. So we submitted, experiences of local business owners that have occurred through the years over here in Trinity County, particularly when Dollar General came to town, but during other occasions. Planning Commission did not find that to be compelling enough to be considered urban decay, so we did submit Dr. King's report, which substantiates that there is certainly a fair argument that should this grocery store be built, there will be urban decay impacts, either through physical deterioration of the land or food deserts, either here or in other areas in Trinity County. Specifically, there may be a produce food desert because of the limited amount of produce space that grocery outlet carries fresh produce and a significant risk to Mountain Marketplace, which carries an abundance of fresh produce. We are asking that an EIR be prepared to study this urban decay impact. I would note that applicant himself submitted a report. This is not as niche of an issue as I think the presentation made it sound. There's ample case law that this issue must be studied so long as there is a fair argument of said impact. We believe that both the personal experiences of the residents here and the expert evidence indicates that there is such a fair argument. And then that relates to the mitigated negative declaration, the CEQA document. Our third issue is on the conditional use permit. That general plan, it is true, was not posted online. It was posted following the June 4th Planning Commission meeting. I believe that was a Tuesday. I viewed the general plan for the first time on Friday. So it was posted in early June. And in order to issue a conditional use permit, which is by its very nature discretionary, and under a conditional use permit is where you would consider the market conditions, the purely economic impacts. Those are not necessarily CEQA issues. They are conditional use permit issues. Pursuant to Trinity County Code, you have to consider three things: sound land use principles, that this project not be injurious to the public health, safety, and welfare, and that it comply with the general plan. So Dr. King's report and local business owner experiences are relevant under that not injurious to the public health, safety, and welfare. I think that the public deserves to understand the economic impact of this project on such a small community. I don't think that the experiences of other communities have any bearing on the individual market experiences of Trinity County and Weaverville. And it's certainly that this project does not square with the objectives of the Trinity County General Plan, which is to encourage the historical character of the town, promote local businesses, and to ensure that existing businesses thrive and are supported. So I don't want to go on forever. I wrote a 10-page letter. If anybody has any further questions for me, I'm happy to answer them now or later. And with that, I will close. Thank you.
We might have some questions based on the podium. Supervisor Morris already sounds like she has.
So who are your clients that you're representing?
Well, we're a group of local businesses, voters, and residents called Trinity County for Small Business.
So has anyone specifically hired you?
Well, that's the group that has hired me to be here. So you've heard from some of them, you've not heard from some of them. It includes local business owners. It includes taxpayers, voters, residents.
Okay, thank you. At the moment, no.
How many members are there?
We have members, meaning individuals or businesses?
Both.
Both. I don't have a total tally. That's
Okay,
maybe 10 to
thank
12.
Supervisor Brooks.
So you say you didn't have access to the general plan. Had you contacted the staff in the planning department to get a copy of that, why it was not online?
I personally had not known. I did in June, which it was then posted online.
Right, but I mean previously when it was offline due to whatever technical difficulties, did you attempt to contact them to get a copy of it?
No, I did submit a letter that pointed out that it said, updated link coming soon. I kept an eye on it from April to June and no updated link came, so I brought it to the attention of the staff in June and it was posted shortly thereafter.
Supervisor Brown?
Yes, thank you. I'm curious, I know you stated that it seems like to me, and you can clarify, you mean...
Supervisor Brown, you cut out. You cut out, sir. Can you restate your statement?
Can you hear?
Yes.
So the main concern is just the NOA, that it's reposted with the accurate time and schedule?
That is the first of sort of three main points we have, is that there's a technical deficiency in the notice of availability and the public review period. Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question for our county council.
So, remain close, because I'm not sure if there's going to be any follow-up. Did you want to go to Sophia?
Yes, that'd be great.
Sophia, are you online? County council?
Yes, I'm on the line. It's Margaret Long.
Hi, Margaret. Thank you for joining us. Supervisor Morris has a clarification.
I think, go ahead.
Okay, I see, I read the staff report and staff response to the appeal and regarding the NOA, and I assume we are in still good standing in terms of the charge of the NOA, and is there any flexibility just for extra measure given to us from the state under COVID, as the flexibilities was extended to boards for the Brown Act issues?
So the question about whether there is posting requirements under the CEQA that were extended based on COVID, not that I'm aware of. I don't believe that that's the position that the planning department was taking as well. I think the position they were taking is that it was properly posted based on the fact that the office was available and open, and it doesn't fall within the code section or the provisions that were provided as part of the appeal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Are there any other questions? Okay. So I'm going to open it up to the public if you guys are done with your discussion. And, excuse me. Yeah. I'm coming up, so.
If I may, my name is Tina Thomas, and I'm counsel to Baston. I wanted to rebut a little bit if I could. So, Chair Chadwick and members of the board, as I said, my name is Tina Thomas. I'm with Thomas Law Group in Sacramento, representing Best Properties. And I did want to sort of add on to what Lisa had to say, and also to what the appellant had to say with regard to who their client is, and really follow up on the question I think that the Supervisor Morris was getting at, and that is, who is the client? And while they claim that it is Trinity County small businesses, you'll note at page 297 of your packet that there is a check that they submitted with their appeal that says it's for North State Grocery, and North State Grocery owns Holiday Market. You can find that link at their website, the North State Grocery website. So this is really about competition. It's not about environmental impacts. But we did submit to planning staff last week a urban decay study that was prepared by an economic analyst, and I do have 10 copies of that here for you today as required. If you were going to submit something, that you have 10 copies for the clerk, and I do have that today for you. So I'd like to place those over here. And the closing comment that is made with regard to the urban decay is that there's a high amount of retail sales leakage out of Trinity County, and coupled with the consideration of existing stores' unique characteristics, as Terry Johnson mentioned, suggests that existing stores in Weaverville are not at risk of losing retail sales sufficient to result in store closure, leading to increased commercial vacancy. And Mr. Reese did an excellent job of explaining urban decay. I'm not going to go into that again. His definition was perfect. It's from a case in Southern California that has been quoted many, many times. But as you can tell from that definition, it's a very extreme level of vacancy and graffiti and vandalism and abandonment. That's just not what's going to happen here. In fact, they'll complement each other. The Mountain Marketplace, as someone mentioned, has I think Ms. Deal mentioned, has a lot of organic produce. Grocery Outlet doesn't, so they're going to thrive because of that. And then Holiday Market is unique because it has a broader range of products, and that's unique from Grocery Outlet. So they're all very complementary to each other, and this notion that there'll be urban decay is just incorrect. With regard to the general plan, your findings with regard to the general plan, there's an immense amount of deference to your findings. So when you make those findings, which I think are in your packet, there will be deference by a court to those, and while it does say promote small businesses, it's not only small businesses, and clearly Holiday Market is larger than a Grocery Outlet, and certainly it's not historic. So I think that there's that sort of disparity as well. With regard to the mitigated negative declaration, it is a low threshold, but it's not a non-existent threshold. And they're going to have to come up with some very strong evidence, some substantial evidence, to demonstrate that there is the potential for this urban decay, and I don't think that they've risen to that level quite yet. There was one other thing with regard to the mitigated neg dec that we wanted to augment. Again, this is not new information, it's just augmenting what was already in your very well prepared mitigated negative declaration. That was with regard to the noise study. We wanted to confirm that that the project is able to meet all of the parameters of the noise ordinance for the county. So again, I have 10 copies of that here. We submitted it last week to your staff. Let's see. I think that is what I have, and unless you have questions, I too am completing my...
No questions? Supervisor Brown, do you have any questions?
Yeah, is the urban decay report being referenced by the applicant? Is that available on the online backup, or is that 10 pages just available physically there in Weaverville right now?
It was presented to the board in real time. Tina will more than likely add it to the agenda minute backups.
And we did submit it to staff last week, Supervisor
For
Brown.
the Planning Commission staff? When you say staff?
I'm sorry, Kim Hunter and Lisa Lozier. Correct.
Okay. So, Tina, will you be making these? These will be made public after today's meeting. Supervisor Brown, we are just now receiving them.
Again, they're not new information.
If anyone does have a digital copy and you could email it to me in the next few minutes, I would appreciate that if it's possible.
Mr. Reese may have a copy because he referenced it in his testimony that he had read it and reviewed it, and so he probably has a digital copy he could send. But
let me check with our director. She might.
Okay.
Director Hunter, do you have a digital copy?
Do you have a digital copy? Probably do at the office. I don't know if I can access that. Yeah.
Jeremy, Supervisor Brown, we can get one to you, but it might take a few moments. It won't be instantly.
I will provide Gary with Jerry's email, and we'll get that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So are there any additional comments or requests or questions from the board?
I have a question of staff. Lisa?
Yes, ma'am.
Besides the letters, most of the folks that have contacted me have been very positive about the project. Was there any, besides the 3 points that the appellant pointed out, any other from public comment in the Planning Commission that something really stood out that the public was very concerned about?
Comments
that you've already addressed or taken care of for the public?
So we had a couple of comments in regard to traffic, concerns about the location of where the grocery outlet is to be built, whether there would be any conflict with traffic, with newer traffic that would be a part of the grocery outlet when they were built. So a traffic study was done, and that traffic study was reviewed by Department of Transportation and also by Caltrans. Caltrans reviewed it more for accuracy of the information, and Department of Transportation determined that it was not going to create a level of service that would create conflict for traffic.
Okay, so no additional lanes were needed, or?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to double check there was something else we were not hearing. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, with no additional concerns, I'm going to now open it. Did you have a concern? You're looking.
We haven't.
I was going to open it to the public.
I'll wait until after public comment.
So at this time, we're going to open it to the public comment period, and we will take those presents in the boardroom first.
Darrell Forza, Weaverville. It's kind of interesting, this discussion about urban decay, because when urban decay occurred in Weaverville and Trinity County is when the big box stores opened in Reading. When I first moved here some 50 years ago, there were 3 grocery stores in town that you could actually buy full variety of groceries. Since then, obviously, we're down to really 1. As somebody who ran businesses in Trinity County, both with and without competition, I would tell you that there's none of us that don't do a better job when we have competition than if we don't. So I think in order to actually alleviate urban decay, we need something like this kind of operation to provide opportunities in town for people to, in fact, buy groceries from different places, which may then cause them to not go to Home Depot, but go to one of the local stores here. So I actually think this establishment of this kind of business down actually will help take care of urban decay. But we have seen dramatic cases of urban decay in Weaverville when the big box stores opened. Before that, you could buy clothes here, you could buy furniture here, you could buy all kinds of things here that you can't now. And that is really urban decay. And basically bringing some of that kind of business back will actually help the process, not deter it. Don't want to really talk about the issues with the business, the planning being open. I know they had signs that said they were closed, but I know personally that when you knocked on their door, they opened it and you could go in, because I personally did business with them during that time. So, thank you.
Sarah, please.
Good morning. My name is Dana Ryan, and I'm a businessman and a developer in Weaverville, and as well, by chance, the seller of the real estate that Best is investing in. Just from the visual of what they've been through and what they've been required to go through seems extreme to me, but they've gone through everything that's been requested. And I don't see any grounds for any appeal on your guys' part at all. I mean, I don't see where there's any justification for it at all. It seems like also on as the board looking out for the whole community, it's a time where we really need to stimulate this economy. Let's try to get some jobs going and make something happen and not make it any harder on them that they've already jumped. The time frame that they've been going through that has been stalled isn't for free for them. They're having to pay for this extra time, not only for legal and all other counsel that they're getting, but they're having to pay for extension one after another to myself. So if we're going to stimulate this economy, we need your guys' help. And what a time to have it with this COVID gimmick that's going on, that we would really need to make something happen and support new growth. And I think their growth is going to pull, their development with Grocery Outlet coming is going to pull in so much more opportunity of people to stay in our own community. I was raised pretty closely to the grocery business my whole life. And as Mr. Forsen said, we used to have 3 stores here. And even at that, they all helped each other to provide what the community needed. If one store didn't have it, they'd suggest and the other store would get it. So it really worked out where we kept a lot of our money at home. And I think with this new business that's wanting to come up here with the employment and the growth that they're going to see, I think it's going to be the biggest thing that I've seen in my 57 years here that's going to really be exciting for our community. So I hope you consider not to appeal this and let them roll forward, and let's get this project in 2021. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? We're going to go to our Zoom public now. If there's someone on our Zoom that wishes to speak to this matter?
We have Sarah Sheets.
Sarah Sheets, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm not really Sarah Sheets. This is Paul Deuser. I'm sorry, I'm using Sarah's Zoom account. I'd like to speak in favor of grocery outlet opening and reiterate some of the arguments that have been made, but make a bigger case that I think there's a positive economic benefit overall. And it goes beyond the obvious benefits of the additional tax base we so desperately need, the additional jobs we so desperately need. But I think the biggest benefit is it keeps more people shopping in Trinity County. Those folks that are now inclined to go down to Winco and buy all their groceries and bring them back, not only do they do that, but when they make that long trip to Reading, they go by Home Depot and they buy things that they might otherwise buy at Ace Hardware, Trinity Lumber. So when you look in aggregate, the competition in grocery prices that it brings is a positive for all the residents. It keeps more people shopping here. But I think overall, we keep more shopping dollars in Trinity County. And that is the biggest benefit, even beyond the jobs and the tax basis that we so desperately need. So I'd like to advocate that you approve this today. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment on Zoom? We'll move to the phone lines now. Oh, excuse me.
Michael Millerick.
Michael, and I'm not sure how to say your last name, Millerick?
That's fine, that's an acceptable pronunciation. Originally when I heard that grocery outlet was going to be moving into the community, I was originally pretty against it, but in doing more research about the company, I realized that it wasn't going to be another Dollar General. But that said, in looking through the supporting documentation in preparation for this public hearing, I have not seen evidence that our community would be able to support 2 relatively large grocery stores. Both Cloverdale and Mammoth Lakes that were submitted in the evidence are larger communities, both with nearly 3 times the population of Weaverville. The planning department effectively argued that they only need to consider economic impact if they believe it will lead to significant environmental impact. I believe the board strongly needs to consider whether or not Holiday, Mountain Marketplace, and grocery outlet will be able to coexist and all remain profitable. If not, one or more will close, which, if it is either of the larger locations, would lead to a large commercial space that would be boarded up and potentially vandalized. I agree with the support letters advocating that this community needs more affordable grocery options. Putting a new grocery store in is not the only way to solve for that, e.g. by providing better wages and jobs for members of the community. I believe the planning department is trying to do their jobs, but the role of the Board of Supervisors is to provide an oversight and look at the larger picture and take into consideration the economy of the larger community. Nominally, the different grocers may have different types of goods, and on paper they may complement each other, but grocery stores operate on thin profit margins, and each has fixed overhead costs. I reiterate that I have not seen any evidence that profitability will be maintained for all of these grocers, and that all of the complementary goods and services that they provide will be able to continue to exist for the community into the future.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the phone lines?
George Bates.
George Bates? George, are you waiting to speak? Try unmuting. Is he on Zoom or is he on Zoom? George Bates, waiting on Zoom. Can you chat to him and let him know that you're waiting for him?
He's on the phone.
Okay, so is there anybody else?
We we have Alejandro Garibaldo.
So is he on the phone waiting for us, or is he on the phone with someone else?
Looks like he's on Zoom.
Okay, so we'll go to Alejandro. Alejandro?
Yes, good morning, thank you. My name is Alejandro Garibaldo. I'm the Director of Sales and Merchandising for Grocery Outlet. I help partner and support the independent owner operator. What's unique about Grocery Outlet, and I've been listening to everybody, and I appreciate everybody's comment, is that what makes Grocery Outlet extremely special is that the owners will be living in Weaverville. They live local and they hire local as well. They love to give back within their own community and partner with a lot of local community. For example, right now, during the month of July, we have what we call Independence from Hunger, where we raise money by selling bags of food and or donations, and that local owner gives back to the local community. Just to give you a prime example, between Reading and West Reading, in less than a month, we've raised close to $15,000 that will be going back to a local organization within their community. So they're all about community giving. Everybody's talking about the affordability and the items that are carried in the store. I thought it was extremely special to share that the owners will be living there, they'll be hiring local, and they love to give back to the community itself. So I've seen a lot of our independent owner stores go into towns and they partner with the other grocery stores, and it doesn't just have to be a grocery store. They partner with anybody that they can, as long as they're allowed to. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Mr. Bates back on? Mr. Bates? Can you unmute your mic or speak into the phone?
He's on the Zoom phone.
Mr. Bates, unfortunately, we're not getting any audio on you. I will request that you unmute one more time before we move on. There's no additional public comment. I'm going to bring it back to the board. Sorry, Mr. Bates. We will bring it back to the board.
Mr. Bates had to send us an email with his opinions.
Oh, is that you, Mr. Bates?
Hello? Did you guys hear me?
Yes, is this Mr. Bates?
No, you don't hear me.
Yes, we'll reopen the public comment period time. We can hear you, you can't hear us. You have 3 minutes.
No, I can hear you, okay. I had a number of things to say. I don't have anything personally against Grocery Outlet, but I do have some major concerns about the whole process and the way it's gone on. I'm also concerned about the competition with other stores in the area, and if we can actually economically support the third store. And I have another question too, is I keep hearing talk about the owners are going to do this, but I haven't heard any talk about who are the owners. I'd really like to get an answer on that. I mean, do they have any owners picked out yet, or is this just something that's in the future they say they're going to do this for some magical people? So that's just my comment. I sent you all emails. I don't know if you got them on more detailed stuff. So if you can refer to those, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. And it's beyond the jurisdiction of this board to know or give you an answer on the ownership. And again, public comment is for your time to speak to the board and not for the board to do a question and answer. But we appreciate all the public weighing in on this matter. Now we will bring it back to the board and close the public comment period. Thank you.
I don't know if there's any more questions.
I have questions for council.
Council, the board would like to direct questions to you. Supervisor Groves?
Thank you.
Hi, Margaret, this is Keith.
Hi,
So today, please explain to us exactly what we're looking at. Are we just looking at the appeal on the 3 items brought up by the appellant? And that is our decision-making process, or do we have the ability to go to a wider scope in this process? I think you get where I'm headed.
I do get where you're going. And so if we read the agenda item, it's conduct a public hearing to uphold, modify, or overturn the Planning Commission's June 4th, 2020 action to approve the mitigated negative declaration and conditional use permit for the property. I believe those are the 2 items before. So that is the scope of what you can look at. You cannot go beyond that and look at other issues. Again, I would like to make sure we keep it very closely related to what the agenda item is and what is before you, which is, again, the mitigated negative declaration and related to the conditional use permit.
Thank you, Margaret.
Supervisor Brown, do you have any additional questions for County Council?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I'd like to make a motion to deny the appeal as presented.
To what?
Deny.
Denied.
Requesting what staff wishes, yes.
Oh, I see. I would second that.
Jeremy, could you hear that?
Yes, I believe you had a motion to deny the appeal of both planning commission's action, and you have a second, is that correct?
Yes, I just want to make sure you.
And I just wanted to further add, I know it's always a concern for people when a big project moves into our county, and especially Weaverville, of course. Being a former small business owner owning a Mama Llama, I understand the competition angle when Starbucks moved in. And we thought for sure our doors were going to close. So I think a project like this and their reputation, they have a long positive reputation of being in business. I would welcome them into Weaverville, being that Weaverville is my district, and understand the need for another type of version of a store such as they're given our not so great demographics here in terms of income. I think we have a lot of people that do travel to Reading to help save on their food bill, and I think this will also help those folks who sometimes not always is considered in these processes, but they will be able to stay a little closer to home and spend dollars locally. So thank you.
With that,
Just a point of order. Margaret, was the motion accurate enough, or did we need to include that we were approving the negative deck and the CED?
Thank you. I would like it to be clear, if we're following the department's recommendation, it would be to deny the appeal, uphold the planning commission's June 4th, 2020 action to approve and mitigate negative declaration and conditional use permit on the property located at 1155 Main Street, Weaverville, California. I understood that what it means, but I want to make sure it's clarified.
Thank you.
I have clarified it. Supervisor Finley, do you want to just say yes, that was?
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And that's what you said.
Yes.
Thank you, County Council.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye. We're going to take a very short break, 10 minutes. We'll leave Zoom up and running. And when we come back, I believe we're at item 5.1. So when we come back, we will be discussing item 5.1 at 11:20. Thank you.
They'll be over here, but I just wanted to show you what's happening now. That camera over there, when I push this, basically they're seeing the podium.
Oh, good.
And then when I push that back, they can back and see how we got.
So you wanted to do.
So the next thing I'll do is put a computer on here, so when you're on break, I can put a sign up that says you're on break.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that's the next step, so.
Yeah.
So
So you know this is being taped and you can look it up on YouTube?
Yes, okay, thank you.
yeah, we'll have live, it's not live right now, it'll be up on YouTube. I typically do, I run it live, just so it's there. Then I go in and cut out the breaks and all that kind of stuff and put it back up, so. It'll be up on YouTube, one way or the other, all the time.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, never mind. We're not trying to.
Any chance that you would be interested in another road or you need a speaker? What's going on?
Don't make eye contact.
Sure, I'd be happy to have that.
Okay.
That would be nice.
Give a time schedule, okay, so I'll double check with you, so, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
You ought to come to Rotary and talk to them about the budget too, maybe not till after it's actually finalized.
Yeah, when we get close right now.
So where are we at on the discussion?
We have some big hits this year. $2.5 billion, we have some stuff. We have massive colleges. Those big things for the next few years. Only like maybe $400,000 to keep out of it. And I think $2.5 billion to 2 or 3 games of it. The hospital.
Yeah,
We did 100%.
Because at some point we're going to have to do that anyway.
I've always argued that keep that up and get that debt. I'm wondering if there's any way.
I think you've got 10 years back. Jeff, joking like 30 years from
I
now.
don't know if you know it or not.
Why does everybody have these years?
Right.
The whole generation has changed.
Yes,
It was happening.
very much impacted. Yeah. Hey Tina. Yeah. I just sent Susie Hopkins an email. We're having home skills at noon, time after my 5 minutes. So, I don't know if we can do anything this week for Thursday, but her next teacher would like you guys to schedule meetings and get past that. I don't know.
So eventually, I'll they share.
Sorry.
that.
Oh, no, it's okay. Well, I don't know how to undo that.
The 21.
And if we have to do 45 minutes from now, that's what they've been doing. Is, the 45 minutes is coming up, everybody, we're taking a break. Unfortunately, no, it is disruptive. And I was not at the last meeting.
They approved they denied the appeal.
I
They
know,
denied
stop
the
that thought, kind of thing, and it was not.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I don't see this.
Have any luck trying to figure out a way to get that group together?
I don't know. You guys were, I have some I got the account. I gave you last.
So I think what I'm going to do is just schedule a meeting, send them all an invite and an agenda, and we're going to call it.
So, we do that anytime except Wednesday afternoon.
I think so. I
Typically, when I
think since when she got it,
I would.
you let me know, I think that's what she was saying.
But it's good to know because I would then easily be able to.
Cool.
It's
Oh, yeah, it's that 2-hour turnaround every time.
Yeah. Well, and then getting it rescheduled.
Right.
Give it time, it said either or.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what it's gonna take, you know?
We're absent for the surgery before the budget.
Right, well, yeah, but I kind of point where, you know, like, saying, oh, sorry, you're sending that information, it's like, no.
Ooh, it works. Doesn't mean the alarm won't go.
Yeah, I heard it, sure.
That was my key turning, I think. Oh, maybe it wasn't. That was real.
I did it once, nobody showed up.
There you go. Everybody responsible to,
So if you're silent,
Get that sent off.
if you don't want that to happen, say something.
They said that you able to get that?
I will need to confirm with Capital, but I think that she was on the phone with Gary Reese and giving him Gary's number, so I will confirm that.
Thank you.
I look over like, oh, does he even realize that? No. I shot them all. Yeah, I do. I do too. I was on that end of the town.
Well, we learned that with all the jobs, and we just said, oh, yeah, whatever. And then when they want to go on the paperwork, they go, oh, you want the village version?
Oh, it's an option?
Yeah, exactly, that was my, like, and I would guess maybe it's something very open. The problem is, just my one opinion.
It needs to be agreed. Honestly, yeah. Go on. How you doing? Good. Good. I am mask challenged.
That's, yeah, I know, it's hard. I have a hard time when I keep forgetting to pick it up when I get out of the car, to do something.
I ran into a gas station the other day and I realized when I was walking and I forgot it. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard.
just jumped out of the car and I didn't think about it.
Yep, that's what happens.
Yeah. And each one of them is a little different. Each one of my masks I have so many different places now. A little different. Is that the one I like? Is this one too tight? Is that one too loose? What I like is the people that are making the fashion statement.
Well,
You know, they have the.
I like that too, except the only ones that, the only one I don't like is when I see American flag.
Yeah.
It's like, you really respect the flag. But that's typically what I think they're thinking they're doing, is that they're respecting the flag. And to me, it's like, no, you're not respecting the flag, you're using it as a master.
I feel the same kind of that with swim shorts or something.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, any clothing actually, in my mind, that is based on the flag, is not, that's not appropriate. But it is what it is. So.
Thank you for your comments.
And the stores are doing the very best I said, we had several places very close. You could buy furniture, several places. You could buy all that stuff in town.
Right. It is true. You're not going to.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Once you're down there.
You don't have to.
If you haven't,
Go to lunch.
Jim, Supervisor Brown, are you on the line? Supervisor Brown, it's 11:20. We're going to resume our board agenda, county matters, item 5.1. I just want to make sure you're there. Excuse me, Jeff. Can you text Jeremy and tell him we're starting? I don't know if we're just not hearing him.
Did you think we were done?
I made it so that we were going to make sure.
It's true.
Press that little leave meeting button.
That's your favorite.
Oh, it's my fingers always red.
County Council, are you on the line?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. So for those on the line, we're just having a little technical moment, trying to make sure that Supervisor Brown is able to hear us. Thank you for your patience.
Just turn the light back on, I got shut off.
As soon as we know Supervisor Brown is with us, we'll continue. Okay, Supervisor Brown, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. All right. Well, item 5.1, discuss the potential of a short-term moratorium on formal and/or small box stores within Hayfork, California. Fiscal impact, unknown fiscal impact. And before we get going, there's a couple things. I received last night a single copy. I was not able to make copies for everyone from the local community. I believe there's over 400, and I see that there is Mr. Wiley is on the phone. He might have the exact number. A petition that was signed, and just to identify the boundary is the Mountain Valley Unified School District. They were looking under their different boundary lines, and that's what they're going to request, that this temporary moratorium be put in place. As some of you were on the board 5 years ago approximately, when this item came before you, there was quite a bit of controversy within the Hayfork area. At that time, there was a committee, and there's been more joined to update the local Hayfork planning plan. Community plan, thank you. And one of the items was this. This was something that they had already on the book, so it's not a knee-jerk reaction to something going on. So with that, I hope that sort of clears up. This has been an ongoing project that they wanted to submit. There was a group that met with the planning department, and this was the easiest option presented at the time for this temporary moratorium until they could adequately submit their Hayfork community plan when the general plan was completed, and make sure that everything dovetailed together, that there would not be anything in or out of sync with the general plan. And I have been told some stuff, but I think that there are people on the line that can elaborate more fully because they're on the committees. So I'll open it up now.
Okay.
Other questions?
What's not valid?
Unified School
District has to
District.
do with this.
That's the territory of
Understand
the
what it
boundary
is.
line that they're requesting that the temporary small moratorium, it's not for all of Trinity County, it's not for
I
Weaverville.
understand that, so there's really been no request, this is a discussion, and they would like it to be around, using the
Yes,
MVSD
yes.
district, okay. How have you participated in this?
I facilitated a meeting between Ms. Hunter, Ms. Leisure, and the community. That's all I did.
No meetings in the community?
No.
Okay. What is your desire with the community plan in Hayfork?
My understanding is that the community would like to have this moratorium. So
You're bringing this before the board, you want to discuss this. At this point, it's coming out of your mouth. You better take, you better.
I'm not representing my thoughts. I'm representing the thoughts that
Okay.
the community has brought forward as the district supervisor. They brought this to me, actually they brought it here at our last meeting. I contacted Director Kim.
So
Hunter.
what do you want to do with the Hayfork community plan?
I would like to see this move forward in response to their request, according to what the director says that they can do.
They can go back and revisit the Hayfork community plan. Help me out here a little bit, Keith. You're familiar with this. Revisit the Hayfork community plan. I was involved on two meetings with the Hayfork community plan. And you want to reopen that, revisit it, and rework it?
There's been a committee working on it, on and off. I'm not involved with the committee. I don't know how often they meet. I don't
There's
know
nothing,
anything.
there's nothing open on the community plan right now that I know of from planning. It's a done deal, and it was brought forward. Maybe Director Hunter can help me out here. Is the community plan back in play? Are there being public meetings? Who's on the planning portion of this?
No, staff has not seen any proposed changes.
So
or been
where are you
involved in the
moving with
process.
this?
To discuss the potential of a short-term moratorium
Based on the
on
Hayfork community plan, or just pulling
community.
it out of?
The community has requested, while the general plan is going out, that they continue to work on the community plan as was requested to.
Okay, so you want to continue to work on the Hayfork community plan, correct?
That is what
And have
Ms.
you
Hunter has.
budgeted for it, set up all the meetings, see, brought to us who's going to be on the Hayfork Community Planning Committee? This is what we need to know in order to move forward.
I have not done any of those things. This is in response to a request while they try to accommodate the things that Ms. Hunter has suggested and outlined, some of which is what you've said. There has been meetings. This is a request to a temporary moratorium while they're able to do that. Their concern is, as a community, that the small box stores will be able to come in prior to that general plan being done and any input from the community. So this is just a temporary, because they don't know what the general plan is. They're not asking for the whole county. They're asking for the boundaries that I said that would only affect that portion of Hayfork.
So what you really want to do is open up the Hayfork community planning. You actually not reopen it, it would probably be starting over, Keith.
So-
It's got 8 years behind it.
So the previous director was not interested in opening up community plans because of the general plan. So the
Right.
step would be you do a general plan first, and then you open up
And
community
integrate
plans.
community planning.
And that's what, yeah.
So it would be a little awkward to try to do a community plan right now.
Right.
And then you're going to have to turn around and redo it 2 or 3 years, which, you know, can be done. I don't know if Kim has the resources to be involved in that, and if that's a high priority. So what I see them trying to do is set up an opt-out for box stores, whatever that definition means, for a short period of time. I would assume, I mean, that's a huge district you're asking for, and what defines a box store and what's not. And, I mean, there's a lot of questions to me in there.
Okay.
So, is Holiday Market a box store? You know, it's more than one.
I mean, if CVS wants to move in down there, we're going to look at it.
Right. But is 2 stores a chain? I don't know exactly. There would have to be a lot of work to define what this is.
And I would suggest at that point then that you stop referring to the Hayfork community plan and just let that be set aside, because we do not have the resources to start anything like this. I don't think you understand
This
how
was
resource
laid out
intensive.
according to Ms. Hunter and Ms. Leisure at the small meeting. And these are the steps that we were told, and I was just there listening. I wasn't leading the group. And the people that were in the attendance of this meeting, this is how it was addressed. This was the most clear-cut way. You can correct me if I'm misstating anything, that Director Hunter and Director Leisure, and so they were informed that this would be a pathway, and the first thing that could happen is for them to request it. They requested. Now it's before us. As far as I know, I am complying with Director Hunter's suggested pathway, and I know that there's people waiting to hear and to speak to the matter. Now, if there's a different pathway, I'm sure they would like to hear it. But as far as I know, they have, in 2 weeks' time, received over 400, and I don't know the exact amount, I just got it last night, petition. I believe one of you said that one of the other communities, I think Lisa, maybe it was you, had oppositions to certain types of stores, and the question was asked if petitions would help. And so they did that. And so there's been some volunteers. I know that one of the persons that had been in the past is also in communication, Mr. Mountjoy. So according to what I know, the community is responding to the path that was provided by Director Hunter. So,
Director Hunter, how does the Hayfork community plan fit into this? Can we just exclude it and it's not part of your request or the request of the public?
Yes, we could exclude it. It's something that will happen in the future. We did talk about the importance of the general plan, that's a priority, and then the any community plan changes would occur after that. And
Right. You do not want to take on the Hayfork community plan right now.
No, we are unable.
You cannot do that.
However, if the community wants to work on the Hayfork plan,
Without a senior planner or without a planner
I would recommend
involved?
planning staff be involved, but there has been a trend in this community for communities to work on their community plans. So I don't want to preempt that by saying you can't do this. I don't have that power. But no, we definitely, planners understand planning law, planning concepts, and we're there for support of the community under the direction of the Board of Supervisors. And we'll provide that. So yes, I recommend that communities do not work on their community plans without professional planning support. That is my official recommendation. However, the trend has been for that to occur. And obviously in the Hayfork area, soon after I arrived, that news came that there'd been work done by the community on the community plan. So it's there. But we do not. We cannot take anything else on. We're struggling with our priorities right now.
I get that. That's one of the things that really bothered me was that the community plan kept coming up and we do not have the ability to to approach that
No,
right now.
the
So I'd like
focus-
to take the community plan off the table.
Yeah, and if I'm not speaking clearly, I'll try again. It was suggested that the moratorium, temporary moratorium, happen until the general plan is completed. And then the Hayfork community plan could be developed so it would not be in conflict with the general plan, as per suggested by the planning department and staff. So this temporary moratorium would be in place until the time that the community, with whoever's helping them, can develop a community plan based on the general plan. So the first thing that was suggested was to put in place a safety feature, to put a temporary moratorium, and we can define those big box and all those. I agree with Keith. I think that needs to be defined specifically. So the general plan has to come before the Hayfork community plan. That's why it actually is nowhere in that discussion, moratorium on a formal and/or box stores within the Hayfork County. I'm doing the backstory, saying they came, they were told the general plan takes precedent, then they can work on the Hayfork community plan, period.
So are you looking for an urgency ordinance?
Yes, and for...
Okay, Margaret, perhaps you can explain to us the timeline of an urgency ordinance?
The timeline, happy to explain that. So an urgency ordinance would go into effect on the first reading. It does not have to be read twice, it's a single reading. It would stay in effect for 45 days. It would then have the ability to be renewed twice, the first time for 10 months and 15 days, the second time for 1 year. The concept is during that period of time, the board would have to direct or supervise preparation of a resolution to the urgency, so an actual ordinance or something else that would go into effect to date permanency. And the basis of it has to be an emergency need. So there'd have to be a health, safety, or welfare that is at risk if emergency action is not taken.
So there's, and after those 4 extensions, it would become permanent?
No, after those two
3 extensions?
It's
original
original and then 2 extensions.
Okay.
If it's not put in formalized by that point, it would disappear. It would by virtue of the fact that the time has run out, it would no longer be in effect.
So planning would have to come up with a permanent ordinance that the board would approve within that amount of time or sooner than
Yes, so
complied with.
The general plan will not be finished.
This is my problem. This is
So-
my problem.
So I have a thought in it. And Margaret, I don't know if this is a legal way to do it. Can we come up with an ordinance requiring CUPs on all box stores in the Hayfork Valley? That way, each one would have the opportunity for the public to come and voice their opinion in a public forum. That way, and that could be something that would last forever or until it was repealed.
Don't these things already exist over 5,000 square feet? So there is a process for the public to partake.
Correct. In the C1 and C2 zones, general commercial and retail commercial, there is a requirement. Anything over 5,000 square feet requires a CUP. Grocery outlet is an example of that. So that is already
So it's
required. And
okay.
very few retail operations are under 5,000
So
square
this
feet.
looks like we'll meet that. My main concern here is not having the correct public input and having this come back and bite us in the rear in the future, and then the whole county will be paying for Hayfork's, what they're trying to do here. And I don't think they understand that.
Margaret, could there be, would that be legal planning to say in a certain zone, it can be opt-out, Hayfork opt-out, everything under 5,000, any box store would have to have a CUP?
What if we don't call it a box store?
Well, whatever definition.
If it's just-
I guess
So
I
I'm
would say
assuming, yeah, we have to define what that is. If there is a legitimate land use reasoning for that we can identify, that yes, that would be an appropriate way to pursue it. But again, we would need to work with the planning department to see the rationale for it and make sure that it meets legal muster.
The other problem I have, not to put it on anybody, is, but the definition of an urgency ordinance, I don't think this quite meets it. And I find, I don't want to get in that, public safety, the whole thing. We're setting ourselves up for damage in the future if Hayfork wants to do this.
Plus, I have a requested urgency ordinance that's been out there for 90 days and I haven't seen anything yet, so. That's me winking at the planning director. Throw in my little, hopefully soon.
So the process is already there in the whole planning process. We saw it unfold today with Grocery Outlet. The only difference is that it is currently at a 5,000 square foot minimum to kick into a CUP. Do I feel we should go smaller than that? I'm not sure yet. If the board wanted to, we would just ask to amend that part of the ordinance where a CUP is required for that square footage, whatever it might be. It could be a riding stable with a huge indoor arena and barn, I don't know, but that's the other flip side to that. We are putting more
burden on businesses.
Yes.
And a CUP process is very onerous. And so, but your Dollar General here, it's in Weaverville, is over 5,000 square feet. You're not going to see, I mean,
that's true, right? Most big commercial.
So your smaller commercial buildings, you're hitting them hard with the CUP in a commercial zone, which is zoned for that use. So that would be my concern.
Point out the Dollar General did not go through a CUP process.
Unfortunately, not in the Weaverville case. That was an error made.
And so that's the important. We have to have some trust with the public here that if we're saying it true.
We do, and that was an oversight made in the past. That provision, just for clarification, that provision which I just quoted in C1 and C2, anything over 5,000 square foot structure for commercial uses requires a CUP, is hidden in an unfortunate area of the code, not in the C1 and C2 zone. It would be easy to miss when it was. I was not here, neither was Ms. Lozier at the time, but I could see how it could have been done. So that is one of the things on our priority when we redo the zoning ordinance, to make sure those are in the appropriate zone so it's more obvious. So just for historical clarification, that is what happened in that case.
But you guys know that.
We definitely know that.
So, but say this group in Hayfork wants to move forward on their own to try to present something. That's still a legal avenue, correct?
A ballot measure?
It would have to be a ballot measure.
I believe that's what they did in the city of Davis.
For an ordinance. Or for.
I mean, they could present it to us.
As a ballot measure, if they don't.
No, I mean as a, well, yeah, they could do it a ballot measure, but they could also work it and present it to us for us to pass beforehand.
Either that or even a ballot, I think they've got a couple more days to put a ballot measure together to bring to us, possibly, I don't know.
Well, for us to put on, or.
For us to put on.
Or if they put it on, then we could just sign it off.
Right, and push it forward for them.
From that perspective. But yeah, they won't be able to make a ballot measure.
Not collecting their own signatures, but possibly bringing it before the board to really.
Yeah, that's running out of time.
We have seconds left.
And I also wanted to clarify, when we met with Chair Chadwick and members of the community, we were asked about ideas for certain approaches. And it was informal, and that is indeed, we said, well, possibly a moratorium. But, there's not a lot of options there. We tried to come to some conclusions on solutions and paths forward. Is it the best one? Maybe not, but that was the suggestion angle we took. But I understand your concerns. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a lot of concerns here with the public, and it's not whether there's a store there or not. It's how it's gone about and whether we get bitten in the rear in the future.
Yeah, any wording in such ordinance or moratorium would have to be very carefully crafted.
And I also have a little heartburn over you giving, our agencies giving certain recommendations to the public. Not that we're not supposed to, but it's still, how can it be, oh, I've already got my little FOIA set up for emails and everything for this one, just like last time, so PR and everything to go after, so thank you.
So, you two seem to have heartburn over an urgency ordinance, but that doesn't mean there's a regular ordinance going to come in for this opt-out.
Right.
And Judy's been waiting an incredibly long time to talk.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I kept trying to, sorry.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Oh, Judy, I thought you meant on Judy, please.
Oh, yeah, right. I think between all your conversation, I think I got my question answered.
Go count on it.
But I do agree the urgency ordinance, I mean, it's a Margaret call, but I just don't see it qualifying under the definition of an urgency ordinance. I think under the CUP process, that process is there for the public to weigh in on any matter going through the CUP process, though it does take a little bit of time. So again, I'm not quite sure that, do they just want to outlaw big commercial buildings? I'm just not quite understanding.
It's interesting because Dollar General was actually brought up multiple times during the last conversation, and every single time it was in the negative. And I think that the concern that individuals have in the community over there are the same concerns that the people in Weaverville had. And as Mr. Porcelain said, you know, now we see the decay. So I think that that is their concern, that as certain stores are allowed to propagate, that there will be the urban decay. And it was mentioned in our last meeting. So I would disagree with a supervisor. When a community group needs to get direction, I would hope staff would make themselves available. And I thought that you guys, and I told you at the time, did a really good job. And there's not a lot of options. This was the cleanest and the most direct to have this conversation now. We have this is the same rub, I think, that it was 5 years ago. They have worked amongst themselves to try to develop something. They have been told to put it on pause until the general plan gets implemented to make sure that they're not in conflict. And now the very thing that they want us to prohibit is knocking on their door. So this is to them an urgency. It's I don't know if we can have some kind of limited ordinance, just phrasing. I guess that's a county council question. Is there an ordinance that can be implemented to have a time frame based on a completion of a general plan for the county? Is there a way to surgically request in a specific area for the public that be done? This is a whole community. This isn't an individual. Like I said, over 400 signatures in a very, very short period of time. And I'm told there's more. That's what I picked up. So,
Supervisor, I don't think you need anything surgical, or you have your area outlined. You can put together an ordinance to bring it forward, and then we're going to have to deal with the repercussions, which is, you know, what we deal with, of lawsuits or somebody wanting to do something that goes against our ordinance, if we can't even put an ordinance like that together. Keep in mind, I believe this land might be owned by private individuals that are looking to have some revenue personally from this, and there's other things at play here. There's other things going on that give me a lot of heartburn as a landowner myself that leases out land and buildings to other people. So you're going to have to look at this, we are going to have to look at this carefully.
You raised a good point, John. They, whoever the landowner is, could raise an issue of that someone, a group, the county is messing with economic interests.
Right. There's more going on here than unfortunately a box store coming in and wiping out the town, which is probably feasible.
So did you have something to say? County Council, did you have something to say?
I don't. I've been listening, and I'm happy to address. I know you had some questions in there, but I'm happy to address any specific structure you're looking to do. I think there are mechanisms to structure it. I just need to have some more information on what your intent is, and we can look to see if there's a legal way to accomplish it.
Okay, why don't we ask the public, because like I said, this is from the public, from the community itself. So with that, if Jeremy has something to add, if he doesn't, then we'll just turn it over to public comment. Jeremy? Supervisor Brown, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm here. I appreciate Jeremy. I prefer it actually. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
I just want to make sure it isn't with following up from the other item of the Weaverville story, that, I don't believe that the government should be interfering with business too much as far as, and people, they support with their dollar, no pun intended. That's usually what determines the outcome of a business succeeding or not, is if people are supporting it with their money. Having been a small business owner in Willow Creek, I think it is important to have that competition. And when I first opened my store, I had zero competition. And when the next store came to open that sold similar supplies, I was concerned at first and in the short run, but in the long run, it turned out to only help my business thrive and encourage me to offer better products and more diversity for the consumers. And so in the midst of competition, typically the consumer is the one who's going to benefit one way or another with the increase of service. So I think that it is important for the public.
You're cutting out. Supervisor Brown, you're cutting out. I'm sorry. It's hard to hear you.
I apologize. That's all for now.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Do you have anybody still on the line? Penny Wiley?
Yes, thank you. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair Chadwick and Supervisors. I appreciate you guys taking the time. This is nice that the Zoom situation is working out well. It's really difficult for me to leave, especially on this day, but it's working out nicely. So I want to address a couple things. I would say that Heather Gossman and I are kind of the ones that are spearheading this second group of people to team up with the group that was doing the community plan for so long. Bob Mountjoy, being the senior guy or the subject matter expert in this, really, to my understanding, wrote that in '96, or it was approved in '96, and I know they spent years doing it. So I just wanted to I want to say a couple of things. We are very concerned about the community plan, not just the economic side or one of the stores that are developed here in the community, but also it doesn't even address, the cannabis. So I want to be really clear. Supervisor Finley brought up a great point. I do not want to do the entire community plan right now. That is not my goal, that's not Heather's goal, that's not Nancy Jackson's goal, that's not Heather Crow's goal, that's not Adrian Keys' goal. The goal is to, now that these things like Dollar General, or not Dollar General, but grocery outlet, as you guys just spoke for quite a while about it, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of opinion out there, and we want to make sure that we avoid all these appeals processes because we don't want the county to spend money. We don't want to spend money. We don't want to spend time, wasted time, doing inaccurate amendments or inaccurate community plans. So we want to make sure this is done right. But yes, there is an urgent issue that people are seeing with grocery outlet and Dollar General wanting to come to these small communities. A lot of people don't want to do it. The number that you were looking for, Supervisor Chadwick, was 501. 501 signatures were signed, signatures were given in 2 sittings. Heather Gossman and Nancy Jackson sat out twice, and then they dropped some paperwork off at locations around the community. So it's 501 in 2 weeks' time. About 20% of our community are absolutely against specifically Dollar General, but specifically what that means for us is formula box stores, cookie cutter stores that are exactly the same, not local community businesses. So I only have 30 seconds. So Adrian Keys was the one that brought the moratorium, not Director Kim Hunter. That was us. We have a group of people looking to make an amendment that you guys or the Planning Commission, whoever, whatever is appropriate, to hear an amendment to the community plan, and then we are going to continue continue the community plan so that we can update it. I feel like we should update it every 10 years regardless. That's my time.
Thank you for that clarification on the moratorium. I thought it was from the planning department. So I saw a Diane and I saw something else flash. Adrian Keys. So Adrian Keys, I'm going to jump to you first.
Okay, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. And thanks for taking the time to consider this. I know it does seem like maybe we're trying to be a special interest or something like that, but we're really not. We just want to exert the same sort of control over our community that other communities have been allowed to do by generating cannabis opt-outs. We're trying to take a more formal tack and make it solid with the community plan and ultimately the general plan. I would imagine that when we get into the general plan, the opt-outs that exist now will probably be codified in there, and we're just looking for that same opportunity. I do think it's very important. I don't want to get into any of the social or economic aspects of it. I'm sticking solely with our ability to have some jurisdiction and control in the community in which we live. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keys. And Diane, are you online?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I put Diane Richards to paper. I think that this petition represents the essence of democracy of our republic. People have spoken in Hayfork. They want to do something about this, and I think we need more an exploratory committee with the community, have meetings so that all sides can be heard, and then have legal consideration to make sure that there's no jeopardy by doing this type of thing. So I think you really definitely should look into it. We have spoken, and you need to listen to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Hold on 1 second, please. Heather Gossman, please. Heather?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. Heather Gossman from Hayfork, and I really appreciate you all hearing this matter, and I absolutely understand the concern. I know that this is kind of a drastic item that we're asking for, but indeed, we found ourselves in a position where it did come to our door unexpectedly. The idea that a Dollar General or another, small box store come into Hayfork and be able to set up shop, especially in a time where so many businesses, in this pandemic, so many businesses are really just trying to stay afloat, and they're trying to find their footing and stay open and keep the community members happy with everything they need. And then all of a sudden,
another store that's based out of another state, $1 billion store comes in, it just seems to me like something that we need to put the brakes on so that our community can get together and voice a solid collective voice as to what we want and need for ourselves. And yes, Kenny Wiley and I have been working on a community plan as well as with others. And it has been stymied because of this pandemic. We haven't been able to really get in touch with some of the other folks who did work on the plan that was approved in 1996. It's been more difficult to reach out to community members and to organize. So we just really are asking for the time to get that together so that when we present you with an amendment, we really have all of our, we have it tight so that nothing comes back to bite any of us later. So, yes, I just implore you to help us find a way to make that happen so that, you know, we can, you know, the democracy is true. Like, this is 501 signatures. It says something to you that we are looking for, you know, our interests to be heard, please. And I do understand what Supervisor Brown said about, you know, competition, but Dollar General or these small box stores aren't necessarily a healthy competition. They're targeting our community. And if, you know, I wanted to open a little general store, maybe that would be something that would be understandable. But that's because my best interest is in the community, and it would be going back into the community, how much to give. Anyway, that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom that we've missed? Is there anyone on the telephone? I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the board. Yes, please.
I just wanted to kind of touch on a planning concept here and how these our planning documents work. The community plans and the general plan are approved by resolution. They're not code. They're not law. They're guiding principles. I just wanted to clarify that. The zoning code or another area code that's codified, that's what has the teeth. That's the law. I don't want folks to think a general plan is codified. It plays a general role as the blueprint and the guiding principles and the vision for the community. I just wanted to clarify.
Please don't go anywhere. I believe Supervisor Finley has something to say.
So since zoning is law.
Correct.
And community plan is, let's try and look at it and make it pretty. And ordinance is law.
Correct.
Locally. Which would you prefer to see or to work on?
Well, they need to be consistent. You need both.
Oh my goodness.
Actually.
That word doesn't work in Trinity County.
We can make it work. We're heading in that direction.
Would you like to see ordinance first? Since that's something that can...
Well, this is what we have to look into.
Okay.
You know, what would that ordinance look like? How would that, what would that even look like?
I think that the community is looking for an ordinance right now that's very healthy that would put it together. So I would be willing to give direction to look at this. We probably really need to know how much it's going to cost CAO to work on this, how important it is. You have no place to work on this, do you?
We have no place to work on this, nor how is this going to be paid for, because the consultant's going to have to be brought on board unless you want me to spend time with my priorities to work on something else than the general plan and the cannabis EIR, storefront retail.
You don't even have to go down your list.
So something on that list has to be shuffled if this is a priority. And then I serve the direction of the board with my priorities and how our time is spent.
Supervisor Morris has something.
Yeah.
You really shut me down there.
You should
My apologies.
I was joking, but Since there's not enough staff, you two could form an ad hoc and work on this with your community. So, I do have a question.
This is
Okay.
beyond that.
Thank you for that clarification, it's important, a good reminder on the general plan. Anything on the zoning code obviously would have to still go through the process, through the planning commission, along potentially with an ordinance if it had some land use elements to it. Also, would any design principles be thrown into that at the same time as a way to mitigate certain looks and feels of buildings in certain communities?
It could, but those
Again,
types
it
of
takes
things.
a lot of time.
A lot of time
Right.
and public input.
Right.
There's a community, I'll use Shasta County as an example, there's a community of Palo Cedro. Kind of the same struggles. They were against a certain gas station chain with mini market coming in. They weren't pleased to have a large, I guess, small box retail pharmacy come in. And they wanted, again, unincorporated county, not incorporated, and they wanted a community plan. They didn't have one. They wanted a community plan. And what was the look? They wanted a Western look. What does that mean? What color combination is that? I mean, it's a very involved community process. It's great when you have it and you have the ability to do that. At this time, that would slow us down. But architectural feature, a color palette, requirements, if a box store comes in, it needs stone fascia and this pitched roof or something like that, landscaping requirements. Those are a way to, improve the aesthetics of things.
But again, it takes
But it
time.
applies to all
We
businesses.
went through this before, and Dollar General complied. In fact, they,
Offered the better looking option.
you bet,
Yes.
after, so don't even start with that.
It could
I
be
know, I understand why you're
thrown
going there.
into these discussions in order to.
Or they tried to comply.
So the matter at hand is, we have a community that has been very outspoken, being preemptive, not reactive, trying to make sure that no one spends additional funding and resources on the buyer side, that they would not go down the line of what happened before. Overwhelming. And it seems to me that we have people very smart in this room in the county council. I'm looking for a solution. I'm looking for a path that would provide some type of assurance to the Hayfork community at large that their voices have been heard. They're equally as important to the people who say don't want cannabis in their community. So what can we do? I'm looking for solutions. I'm looking for answers. What is, you mentioned a resolution. What were you thinking when you were mentioning a resolution?
I'm not sure. I just wanted to clarify that
Okay.
a general plan is approved by resolution, a community plan is approved by resolution. They're not code. They're
Okay.
guiding principles and a vision. That was my point of the resolution. I'm not sure. I think the best, what solution I can offer at this moment moving forward is to maybe continue this item, allow Margaret and I some time to talk. Lisa, she's worked in this area as well, maybe as a possible solution. We just need more time to find that solution.
Keith, did you have
So
something?
to me, the most expedient way for this group to do this is actually possibly work with staff, but still pony up money and hire a consultant to come together to put together a proposal that got brought to us in order, if we can't spell it, then goes on to a ballot measure for that.
When you say proposal, can you explain what you mean?
Well,
by that?
the proposal, you're talking about a 5-year, 10-year moratorium on whatever you're trying to ban, which I still don't have a clear understanding of what that means.
Right.
I know I lived in the city of St. Helena and they banned all chain stores. So I don't know, I'm sure there's a definition of what a chain store, if it's 1, 2, or 1,000, I don't know. And so having a clear understanding of what you're trying to ban, is it, is there a pot shop chain that you would be banning? Is it if somebody wants to bring in, like, oh, I've got a hardware store, I'm now going to be an Ace hardware store. Does that get banned? And there's a lot of questions that the community needs to talk and discuss. What they, okay, so the big bad boy today is Dollar General, but something else that comes in when I say, hey, that would be cool to have, I don't know. But if this group got together and you have 500 people that pony money up to, come up with 20 grand to go to a consultant, or I don't know, is 20 grand a realistic number? Probably. To set that together and work and have a private one come forward, and then of course it would have to go to staff at that point. I would support then spending that staff time to make sure that that's a real thing that comes through.
So Margaret, do you see any other pathway forward? Because to go to a proposal to do all that, and if we, and Keith mentioned it going to ballot, we have a week, I think.
Well,
so
with the ballot, maybe talk to elections to see if enough signatures are gathered. I don't know if we can put it forward, but a special election, we have to pay for that, or somebody would have to pay for a special election for a ballot, I'm sure.
I believe the number right now, if you're going for signatures, you have till the 27th. If you're going in front of the board, you have till the 4th.
Right. Supervisor Groves is correct. I believe the deadline is the 27th to get signatures in. And there is an August date, but we're pushing very close on time in this, and I typically don't recommend legislating in a rush unless you have to.
no. Do you see any way, any pathway forward for a temporary stay on, for lack of better description, because I understand we don't know the definition, and I get all that, of the type of stores that the Hayfork community is resistant to? What suggestions would you have?
So the only mechanism to do that is an urgency ordinance, and again, we'd have to look at, and at this point I don't have an answer as to whether it would meet the legal muster of being a health, safety, public welfare, but we could, I could meet with planning and look at that. Other than that, there's no urgency way to get something done. It would have to be done through either again through a vote of the people or through a formal ordinance of the board, which could be done.
Okay, so that's, I guess, the direction that we need to do is in order to continue to move forward, is to look at that urgency ordinance, and then the board will take that recommendation after you've met with planning.
Margaret, I have just a technical question. If this did go to a vote of the people, and since it's area specific, would this be a countywide vote, or would this be a district vote?
The county is only capable of doing countywide votes.
Okay.
So we don't have any sub-districts within, so it would have to go to a formal vote.
Unless they form a sub-district?
That's correct, unless they went through LAFCO and formed a district.
What about incorporating
It takes a long time.
as a municipality to the board?
And that's an actual process.
That would have to go.
Are you all comfortable with that direction?
That would give them a lot more power. They could have their own Hayfork police and everything.
So the direction that I would like to have consensus is that Margaret, County Council, and Director Hunter look into whether it's feasible to bring to the board an urgency ordinance prohibiting, for the lack of correct vocabulary at this time, what we'll call box stores, and bring back to the board their recommendation.
And anything else they may think of.
Yes,
Give
and
it
any
time.
other solutions and pathways forward. Okay, you comfortable with that? Supervisor Brown?
Do you have time and money?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
No. Either does county council, does.
Yeah, I'm comfortable, I'm fully supportive of making sure the community feels like they have a way in what's going on in their neighborhood. And the flip side of that for me is I get concerned about how far that the government's reach goes into determining, such as the definition. Is it based on square footage? Do you have to be a local resident? Things of that sort. How far reach do we go in mitigating what determines the success of a business? And reiterating the fact of, if a business opens and no one wants it there, you should assume that it will close down because it won't be successful and it won't be supported. And I'm aware that the Dollar General has a reputation for targeting small communities, and I do. That is a scary kind of concept, and I'm not supportive of local businesses going out of business, obviously. But I feel that the competition can bring benefit for the consumer, and if people don't like the business structure or the business owner in these small communities, they are not supported then.
So I'm taking that as a yes.
That's all.
I do appreciate Supervisor Brown's.
Yeah, I'll reiterate. I am supportive of providing the community with any avenues possible to have their concerns voiced and agendized or resolutioned, however it may be presented.
Thank you. Supervisor Finley?
No, regarding what?
The direction given to staff.
Sure, that's fine. I don't think we have the money or time for staff to do this, but I appreciate them and Margaret working on this.
Thank you.
I would prefer to see an absolute ordinance instead of an urgency ordinance brought forward.
Okay. Supervisor Brooks?
I just wanted to say I appreciate Supervisors Brown move into Reagan economics, and I appreciate the time that he spent in my office.
There must be inside.
Come on, Jeremy. What?
Go ahead, Director Kim.
Thank you. I seeking guidance on this issue and our limited resources and staff time. Can you provide me with the parameters of how many hours I should spend on this topic?
I would assume that you would know your part and that county council knows her part. And I would not know how to give you direction on an hour basis. I assume that
we could spend endless hours on these types of things, so I guess I'm looking for a cap.
2 hours.
Where this is it, I'm done.
Write an urgency order.
2 hours.
Not writing it.
We're not writing it. We're
not writing.
Okay.
Just finding a pathway, a solution forward. So it is helpful to me. We can get lost in these things very easily and end up spending a lot of time on it, which again takes away from other priorities. So if I have these parameters, it is helpful.
Will 2 hours give you a start?
Yes, 2 hours would give us a start.
Margaret?
Sam, can you help facilitate this whole?
We'll make it work.
I'm Margaret.
Oh, Margaret, don't start with that.
And just,
it's too positive.
And work with the chair, since it's her
appropriate time, we'll do it.
Supervisor Finley.
The heartburn I'm getting on this is what Kim is hinting to is she doesn't have the time.
Right.
We have so many things we have at least 4 number 1 priorities.
Right.
So this will be number 2, which number 2 is about 500 different items. So that's my concern, is I just don't know where it fits in, because I've been writing her very hard to get the EIR in front of the Planning Commission and to the board before the end of the year. We still have the general plan,
Storefront ordinance.
the storefront, so we have some.
Plus day-to-day
So
planning.
that's what concerns me is how thin are we going to continue to stretch? So I understand what she's saying is give her some parameters in how much time and when do you want this back? If you say we want it back in February, well, that gives us some breathing room as opposed to 5 hours. How quickly do you want this back? I like the idea that the Supervisor Brown that maybe it is community driven. They send us. What's that?
I just saw behind you, cannot hear you.
Oh, okay. being a little more community driven, where they give us the parameters of what they want, and then maybe we can put that into, we can put it into legal form, as opposed to us as staff guessing, because again, then that's, as Supervisor Brown is saying, how far do you want us to reach into the community? I'd like to hear a little more from them.
So my direction was to find out if it's feasible for the community to go forward on an urgency ordinance based on the concerns that he had. It sounds like there's a possibility that it could be done, but there's a possibility based on the reasons why you can't have it, it might not be done. So before somebody puts one together, just want to know if we can put one together.
We as a county or we as the community?
I think the community would like to take it on if they know that it's legal, like they would like to have it, you know, a moratorium. That was a thought, that we could have a temporary moratorium, but that has been X'd today, I'm assuming. So,
I think we're just looking for what options before a full-blown out
yeah,
ordinance
we just
comes
need to know
back.
what we can do.
Some really vetted out options.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for Kim or for county council, but with 400 signatures, I'd assume that they have some people available to put an outline together for us, and then we can put that outline into legal form or ordinance or a resolution, whatever.
The resolution's not going to cut it.
Right. But, well, I think it'd be up to county council to really determine which is the best.
So are you stepping up?
No, I am not.
If we give you direction to do outreach to the community of Hayfork and put this together, how much is it going to cost? They will choose who's going to be on, how many and who's going to be on their committee. Without board involvement.
I think what we're missing here is what I heard is options to come forward, not totally vetted out, but just like this is what you legally could do, or the community could do.
And that's what the 2 hours is for.
Okay, we can do that in 2 hours. I'm sure Margaret probably has a pretty good idea of what the best solution is, so Margaret and I and Kim can come back and give 2 or 3 options of what, and then with those options, we can put a time frame, a price to it, and staff involvement.
And probably the leadership of this community group could just send them some pointers of what their concepts are, so they could funnel it into their development of
Absolutely. I think did you get the contacts of the people that were here with you before? I'll make sure that the contacts are delivered. Do you want them delivered to you or to Ms. Lozier?
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Lozier, you're saying yes. I said which one?
Well, either one of us.
Okay, I'll do both.
Okay.
Okay.
Usually she's a little more organized.
Okay, and then I'll have county council looped in on that. And so it'll be the 3 of you and then probably 3 or 4 of their team leaders.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a time which you want to wrap? Because we have August 4th, we have the 18th. Is there a time frame you want to run it back to the board? I think the 18th would be feasible for us.
18th, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Supervisor Brown wants this vision.
Supervisor Brown?
Sorry about that. No, I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. So,
I do think that we should make it clear, and Mr. Wiley's still on the phone, that I think if this group is serious of getting this moving forward, that after watching this discussion, they should realize that the county's not going to be their savior in this process, and that maybe for their own mental health that they might want to just move forward, again, back with their own consultant and move forward. That's going to be a much faster process. So that's just my disclaimer to them.
That's true.
That at best, this will be a slow, painful process for us to try to
get a good attorney.
okay, so I'm just reviewing because we kind of hopscotched around and I don't think I missed anything. So we're going to go into closed session. Thank you for hanging with us, ladies. Appreciate that very much. Closed session, item 6.1. Government Code Section 54954.5, parentheses C, the conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. Number of cases 2, Keene versus Finley, Trinity County Superior Court case number 16CV068. Also, Ware versus White, Trinity County Superior Court case number 17CV091. Is there public comment on that item?
Yeah, Diane Richards.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Richard Hayford. I gave you a letter last night or a couple days ago and an attachment. I hope people have seen it. I want to just reiterate, when you're sitting as the Board of Supervisors and you allow public funds to be used in an election contest, either for Mr. Finley, the candidate, or for the county council representing Trinity County as unofficial real party of interest, you are violating and contesting the civil rights under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. A candidate who wishes to oppose a challenge, there is a statute, state statute, that allows the candidate to fundraise and supply through the Defense Fund. That is under Government Code 85304.5. Also in the sister case to that, versus Trinity County, it was stated that fellow board members, county attorneys, and legal counsel could violate Government Code Section 1090, that's your conflict of interest code, if they promote or vote upon a public contract knowing that their colleague has a financial interest in it. The actual invoices you've been approving payment for are legal representation contracts between John Finley and Churchill White LLP. On October 2016, sometime there in that time, Finley contracted with Churchill White, and then when he became the chair, supervisor and chair, on January 17, 2017, the first payment began. It was not on the agenda, it was not voted on, it wasn't in public or a closed session. So that is absolutely a violation in many different statutes. You are the sole responsible party for expenditure of public funds. You cannot seek cover under guise of counsel for opinion or advice. You should not be spending any public funds on anything to do with the Feeney versus Finley case. This would include no funds spent for county staff time or resources. Neither Churchill White nor Princess Long should be receiving any compensation from Trinity County's public funds regarding the case. I ask that you consider all the above and the two cases pending in the Court of Appeals and ask yourself, why would you throw yourself on the sword for Mr. Finley over egregious election violations and manipulations? That's what this is really about, this case. So I ask that you put my letter in and the Fair Political Practices Commission letter in the legal minutes for today. Thank you.
Is there anyone else on the line? Moving on to item 6.2, Government Code Section 54954.5, parentheses E, Public Employee Evaluation, County Administrative Officer. Is there anybody on the public that wants to comment on this? Moving on, item 6.3, Government Code Section 54954.5, parentheses F, Conference with Labor Negotiation, County's designated representative, David Prentice, Sophia Meyer, and Shannon Nelson. Employee organizations, Deputy Sheriff's Association, Probation Peace Officers Unit, Management and Comprehensive Unit, Skilled Trades Unit, and General Unit. Anybody on the telephone lines or Zoom should speak to item 6.3. Bringing it back. Closing open session.
Look at the conference. Yeah. So it's easier for me to call in.
You guys okay with us taking 6.3 first?
So you guys are in closed session now?
Yes.